What if the primordial titan of time, Cronus, clashed with the shadowy goddess of magic Hecate? Forget everything you thought you knew about these mythological powerhouses, because we're about to uncover an epic war for cosmic dominance you never imagined. Who truly holds the reins of ultimate power in the unseen corners of the ancient world? It begins with a broken oath, a primordial pact made between night and time itself, an agreement that was the very foundation of the Olympian age. Listen, can you hear it? Not the thunder of Zeus's bolt from on high, but the slow, grinding grate of stone deep beneath the earth, the sigh of withering starlight, the cold hiss of breath on ancient iron. In this story of Greek mythology, you probably won't want to believe what you were about to hear. The truth of it unsettles the world you think you know, revealing the fragility of the gods and the terrifying power of what lies sleeping beneath them. So, before the tension gets too high, take a moment to like the episode and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's your support that allows these ancient mysteries to be brought back into the light. And when you do, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I find it fascinating to see how far these old tales travel across the globe. Now close your eyes, imagine the ancient mountains, and let's unravel this epic tale together. You are standing where three roads meet, under a sky bruised with the last vestiges of twilight. The air is sharp and carries the scent of damp earth and distant cold stone. This is a place of decision, a liminal space belonging to no one and everyone, yet it is here that her presence is strongest. The world of men is quiet. The world of the deities on Olympus is loud with wine and song and petty squabbles. But down here, in the deepening gray, another world stirs. For ages, a cosmic law has held the universe in balance. It was an oath, sworn in the time before time, a promise made to Nyx, the eternal night. It decreed that the devouring king, the titan Cronus, would remain bound not only by the adamantine chains forged in the fires of the earth, but by a metaphysical law. A law stating that time shall not turn back to consume its own children. This oath was the silent bedrock upon which Zeus built his reign. Tonight that bedrock has begun to crack. It doesn't happen with a roar. There is no earthquake, no tidal wave. It is a subtle wrongness. A shepherd on the slopes of Mount Pelion feels a sudden, inexplicable chill and finds a single gray hair in his dark beard, though he is not yet 20. A priestess at Delphi, mid-prophecy, tastes dust in her mouth and sees a vision of a golden temple turning to sand. These are the ripples spreading from a single point of disturbance, deep in the abyss of Tartarus. You feel it here at the crossroads, as a profound stillness. The crickets have fallen silent. The wind, which only moments ago whispered through the gnarled olive trees, now holds its breath. You are waiting, though you don't know for what. As is the ancient custom, you have brought an offering. For centuries, mortals in places like the sun-bleached plains of Thessaly or the bustling ports of Miletus have practiced this ritual, Hecate's supper. You place the small plate at the center of the intersection, a piece of barley cake, a clove of garlic to ward off lesser evils, and a small, crudely molded clay dog, a tribute to the hounds that run with the goddess. It is a simple act to appease the wandering spirits, to feed the hunger of the restless dead that trail in her wake. The offering is not for the goddess herself, but for her retinue. Yet as you place it on the ground, bizarre and strict taboo of this ritual comes to mind. Once you set down the deep naan, you must walk away without ever looking back. To turn around is to see who or what comes to the feast, and to meet their gaze is to invite their sorrow, their unending hunger, to follow you home. It is a strange and unsettling rule for one of the most powerful deities. You turn to leave, your feet scuffing the dirt path, but a sound stops you. A faint, dry hiss. It's not of a snake, but of something desiccating, crumbling instantly into nothing. You hesitate, the ancient taboo warring with a primal sense of dread. Breaking the rule, you slowly turn back. Your breath catches in your throat. The offering is still there, but it has been touched by an impossible blight. The barley cake has not been eaten. It has turned to a pile of fine gray dust. The garlic clove is a blackened, shriveled husk. The small clay dog has cracked and weathered as if it had lain there for 1,000 years. It is as if an eon has passed over that single spot in the space of a heartbeat. This is not the work of a hungry ghost. This is an echo of a power far older, far more terrifying, a power that commands time itself. And then you hear it, not with your ears, but in the deepest, most silent chamber of your mind. A single, resonant thought, cold and heavy as a tombstone. A name, Cronus, the unspoken name. The name that holds the memory of a universe devoured. The oath is broken. The silence has been filled. The world of mortal heroes and immortal gods continues its dance, unaware that the floor beneath their feet is about to give way. But the question that now hangs in the cold, still air is not simply how this is possible, but what ancient, forgotten force was strong enough to begin unmaking an oath that held a titan in chains. The ripple of that blighted offering spreads from the mortal world into the spaces between. It travels not along roads of dust and stone, but along the unseen pathways of magic and fate. And it is here in her own domain that the goddess Hecate feels it first. She does not stand on any single crossroads on earth, but exists within the concept of them all, a realm of infinite branching possibilities woven from mist and torchlight. Here the laws of men, and even the laws of the Olympian deities, are secondary to older, more fundamental rules. The air itself is a tapestry of choices made and unmade, of journeys begun and destinies altered. She is the guardian of these intersections, the keeper of the keys that lock and unlock the passages between the worlds, the living, the dead, and the divine. Tonight, for the first time in millennia, one of her keys has turned of its own accord. She feels it as a sudden, sickening lurch in the fabric of her reality. A pathway that should lead to a peaceful grove in Arcadia now flickers, showing for a heartbeat a barren desert of black sand under a dead sun. A choice that should lead a sailor home to his family now twists into a watery grave that was never fated for him. These are not prophecies. They are echoes of a reality being unwritten, of threads being pulled from the great tapestry. She holds her twin torches aloft, their flames burning with a cold white light that casts no shadows. This is one of the most bizarre and misunderstood qualities of her sacred fire. Hecate's torches do not illuminate what is there, they illuminate what is not. They reveal absences, hollows, and the ghosts of things that have been erased. Where a normal flame would show a wall, her torch might reveal the spectral outline of a door that once was. Where it would show a solid floor, her light might reveal the chasm it was built to conceal. Now, as she sweeps the flames across the shifting pathways of her domain, the fire sputters and hisses, not from a wind, but from contact with a void, a patch of absolute nothingness where a law of the cosmos should be. And in that void, the torchlight reveals a horrifying aftermage, the faint, swirling signature of devouring time, the metaphysical scent of Cronus. It is a presence she has not felt since the age before this one, a power antithetical to her own. She is the guide, the one who illuminates transitions. She is the psychopomp who led the weeping Demeter through the darkness with these very torches to find her lost daughter. Persephone, this ancient role as a guide in the dark, is a core part of her being, a function so essential that initiates in the sacred Eleusinian mysteries would see her torch as the symbol of the journey from ignorance to enlightenment. But the power she feels now is not one of transition. It is one of absolute cessation. It does not guide, it consumes. Looking up, she consults not the familiar constellations of the mortal sky, but the deeper star patterns that represent cosmic laws and destinies. Her gaze falls upon the serpent, a celestial body whose light is tied to the primordial oath of Cronus's binding. One of its stars, the one representing the eternal seal on his chains, is gone. It hasn't fallen or burned out. It has been erased from the past, present, and future as if it never was. The very history of the universe has been altered in a single, silent instant. The devouring king is not merely stirring. He is actively unmaking his own prison from the inside out, using his dominion over time as a weapon against the very fabric of existence. The war has already begun, but its only casualty so far is a piece of reality itself. This is the greatest of ancient mysteries, not how the Titans were defeated, but how their defeat was made to last. The Olympians believe it was their strength, the might of Zeus's thunderbolt, and the unbreakable chains forged by the Cyclopes, but Hecate knows the truth. It was a bargain, an oath, a thread of magic woven into the foundation of the new age. And that thread is now snapped. The tremor she feels is not just a threat to the arrogant heroes and gods of Olympus. It is a personal affront. Her domain is the crossroads, the point of choice and change. Cronus represents the absence of choice, the single, inevitable end of all things being consumed by their beginning. His re-emergence is a poison aimed directly at the heart of her power. But the chilling question that coils in the sudden silence of her realm is, why now? And why does this awakening, this ripple of uncreation, feel less like a random surge of power and more like the first move in a deliberate and personal game? To understand the source of this unraveling, you must now leave the crossroads and descend. Your journey is not one of a mortal body, but of consciousness, following that cold tendril of wrongness down, past the roots of mountains, past the sunless rivers of the underworld, where Charon pulls his silent ferry. You go deeper still, past the iron gates of Hades' domain, to a place that is as far beneath the realm of the dead as the earth is beneath the heavens. You are sinking into Tartarus, the ultimate prison, the pit where the sins of the cosmos are held. It is not a place of fire and torment, as later tales might claim. That is a mortal conception of punishment. The truth is older and colder. Tartarus is a void of absolute pressure and sensory deprivation. It is the color of nothing, the sound of nothing. It is a place designed to crush not just the body, but the very idea of being. Here in the dead center of this crushing emptiness, a form is chained. It is a shape so vast it could be mistaken for a mountain range, a being of stone and starlight and forgotten time. This is Cronus. The chains that bind him are not merely adamantine links forged by the Cyclopes. They are strands of solidified law, each one glowing with a faint, cold light. They are woven into his very essence, pinning him not just to the floor of the void, but to a single, eternal moment in time. This is the most bizarre and cruel aspect of his punishment, a secret known only to a few chthonic deities like Hecate. Cronus, the lord of time, is trapped within it. For untold ages, he has been forced to endlessly relive the instant of his defeat, the bitter taste of the emetic potion brewed by Metis, the convulsive agony as his devoured children are vomited forth whole and burning with righteous fury. He sees the triumphant, hate-filled eyes of his son Zeus, and the blinding flash of the thunderbolt that cast him down from the heavens. This single, humiliating moment has been his entire existence, looping for eternity. Psychological prison from which there is no escape. But a prison built from time is a perilous thing to use against time itself. For millennia, he was a passive observer of his own downfall. But after the first age passed, a flicker of awareness returned. He began to perceive the loop not as a reality, but as a construct. He who commanded eons began to study the micro-moments within his eternal second of torment. He learned the rhythm of his own agony, the cadence of his children's war cries, the precise trajectory of the lightning, and in that study he found a flaw, a seam, a tiny, infinitesimal crack in the temporal weave between one loop and the next. It took him another age to learn to touch it, to insert his will into that crack. At first it was nothing. Then he learned to stretch it, to widen that single moment by a fraction of a thought. He was no longer just a prisoner of time. He was a prisoner learning to manipulate the very walls of his cell. This is the source of the whisper. It is not a voice, not a sound that travels through air. It is his consciousness, freed for the briefest of instants between the loops of his punishment, seeping out like a psychic poison. It is a miasma of pure, concentrated will. The will of a king who remembers ruling a cosmos. The hunger of a father who devoured his own progeny. The cold, logical despair of a being who believes that all creation is a mistake. A fleeting deviation from the perfect silence of the void. This poison seeps upwards, not seeking a path, but creating one, corroding the very laws of reality that stand in its way. The star that vanished from Hecate's sight. That was Cronus, practicing. He reached through the seam in his prison and did not just break the oath binding him. He reached back into the past and unmade the moment it was sworn. It was the first note in his symphony of uncreation. The whispers are the resonance of that act, the quiet, terrifying hum of a foundational law of the universe being erased. This subtle vibration seeping through the bedrock of the world, something that ancient heroes and miners in places like the Silver Mines of Lorien might have interpreted as the groans of the earth. They were not entirely wrong. It was the sound of the world's foundations being stressed to their breaking point. The unseen war of Greek mythology has its first true offensive. The poison is now a slow, cold tide rising from the pit. It is too subtle to be noticed on bright, boisterous Olympus. It is a thing of shadow, of doubt, of quiet rooms and long nights. It seeks not a fortress to assail, but a crack to enter. It looks for a mind that is already open to the whispers of the unseen. A soul, fragile enough to become an antenna for its silent cosmic scream. It is a signal of pure despair, broadcast from the heart of Tartarus, searching for its first receiver in the world of light. The question is, whose mind will be the first to tune to this dreadful frequency and give the formless horror a voice, a word, a prophecy? The psychic poison seeping from Tartarus needs a voice, and it finds one on the sun-bleached island of Delos. You are there now, standing in the holiest of sanctuaries. The air is brilliant, almost painfully so, and the sky is a vast, unbroken dome of Aegean blue. White marble glints everywhere, reflecting a light so pure it feels like the physical manifestation of divine order. This is the birthplace of Apollo and Artemis, the heart of reason, music, and prophecy. This island, which ancient mysteries teach once drifted aimlessly across the sea before being anchored to the earth by Poseidon's trident, is a symbol of stability wrested from chaos. There is no place in the world save Olympus itself that should be more immune to the creeping dread you felt at the crossroads, yet it is here that the whisper finds its purchase. In a small, unadorned chamber carved into the side of Mount Cynthus, an old woman sits on a three-legged stool. She is the Pythia of Delos, a lesser-known but far older oracle than the one at Delphi. Her eyes are clouded with cataracts, two milky orbs that have not seen the sun in 50 years, but her acolytes say she sees the shape of the world more clearly than any sighted person. Her ritual is not one of frantic frenzy induced by vapors, but of deep, silent communion. She places her withered hands on a smooth, dark stone before her, an omphalos believed to be a sibling to the one marking the center of the world at Delphi. She closes her blind eyes, and her breathing slows, becoming so shallow it is almost imperceptible. She is unmooring herself, allowing her consciousness to drift into the great stream of cosmic knowledge to become a vessel for the voice of Apollo. This is the bizarre, unspoken burden of the true seer. The prophetic state is not a gift of sight, but an act of self-effacement. To speak with the voice of a god, you must first have no voice of your own. The words that come from her mouth are not hers. They feel she has confided in her most trusted acolyte. Like wearing a heavy mantle of sound, a garment of pure meaning woven by another, her own thoughts are silenced, her own will is set aside. She becomes a hollow reed for the divine breath to pass through. For decades, the breath that has filled her has been one of warmth, of golden light, of music, and elegant, if often frustratingly cryptic, truths. Today, something else answers her call. As her consciousness touches the stream, she feels a cold shock, as if plunging her hand into a frozen river. The familiar golden light of Apollo's presence is there, but it is distant, flickering, as if seen through a thick, dark glass. And from the other side, from the depths of the stream, something is rising to meet her. A presence of immense gravity and coldness. It is the void from Tartarus, the psychic scream of the imprisoned Titan, and it has found its conduit. She feels a pressure in her mind, a crushing weight that has no physical component, but threatens to annihilate her very being. The familiar warmth of prophecy is consumed by a devouring emptiness. The voice of Apollo, the one she has carried for so long, is not just silenced, it is eaten. In its place is a silence that is not empty but full of a cold, patient, and absolute hatred for all that is, was, and ever will be. Her blind eyes snap open, but they see nothing of the sunlit chamber. They see what Hecate saw, a star being erased from the sky. They see what you saw, a simple offering turning 2,000-year-old dust in a heartbeat. They see visions of a world turning backwards, of cities unbuilding themselves into scattered stones. of living heroes unborning themselves back into the womb, of the mighty deities themselves dissolving into the primal elements from which they were formed. She is seeing the universe through the eyes of Cronus, and it is a vision of perfect, logical, all-consuming entropy. The acolytes waiting outside the chamber see only the old woman begin to tremble violently on her stool. A low moan escapes her lips, a sound of profound and inhuman agony. Then her back arches, and a scream is torn from her throat. It is not Apollo's voice. It is a voice ancient and vast, a sound like mountains grinding together, like a tombstone cracking, like an age of silence being shattered in a single explosive instant. The name rips through the sacred air of Delos, a spike of pure sonic horror. Cronus. The sound wave hits the chamber walls, and fine cracks spiderweb across the ancient stone. The pure light of the island seems too dim for a second, as if a cloud has passed over the sun, but there are no clouds in the sky. The name hangs in the air, vibrating with a power that has no right to exist in this age. The seer collapses from her stool, a fragile, broken vessel. The connection is severed. But the damage is done. The name has been spoken. The whisper has been given a voice. But as the name echoed out over the wind-dark sea, carried on winds that now seemed colder, the true question was not what the seer had seen, but who, or what, had just heard the unspeakable name of their forgotten king, spoken aloud for the first time in an age. The seer's scream does not stop at the edge of the mortal world. It tears through the shimmering veil that separates the mundane from the divine and rips across the golden plains of Olympus. You are there, on the highest peak, where the air is not air at all, but pure, condensed ether, and the light is the eternal, shadowless brilliance of a sun that never sets. The ambrosia is sweet, the nectar is intoxicating, and the laughter of the Olympian deities rings like perfectly tuned lyres. But the scream cuts through it all. It is a shard of jagged primal fear plunged into a symphony of blissful ignorance. For a single, eternal moment, all sound on Olympus ceases. Apollo clutches his head, a look of agony on his flawless face, as he feels the violation of his sacred space, the defilement of his oracle. Artemis's hand instinctively goes to the bow on her back. Ares grins, smelling a conflict he does not understand. But Zeus, the king of gods and men, does not move. He sits on his great throne, his knuckles white where he grips the carved lightning bolts on its arms. He has heard that name spoken in terror once before, from the lips of his own mother, Rhea, in the age before this one. The name Cronus echoes in the silent throne room not as a memory, but as a resurgence. It is the one fear Zeus has never truly conquered. He defeated his father with strength, trickery, and alliances. But he knows in the deepest part of his being that he did not destroy the concept his father represents. You cannot kill time. You can only imprison it. Now, the prison is failing. He feels it not as a direct challenge, not as an army marching on his gates, but as a subtle instability in his own power. The ether around his throne feels thinner. The thunderbolt in his hand feels infinitesimally lighter. It is as if the very laws that underwrite his authority are being eroded from beneath. This is not a war he can win with displays of force. Throwing lightning at a shadow is useless. This is a rot, a creeping infection in the source code of reality. This is a matter for the powers that walk in the dark, the ones who understand the ancient Thanic laws that Olympus was built upon, yet pretends to have forgotten. There is only one deity who holds dominion over the spaces where light and law break down, Hermes. Zeus's voice is low, but it carries the weight of a breaking storm. The messenger god appears in a shimmer of motion, a blur of contained energy. He is the god of transitions, the patron of merchants, thieves, and travelers. More than any other Olympian, he is the guardian of the unlit path. He is the only one who can walk freely between the three great realms, the celestial heaven of Olympus, the terrestrial world of mortals and their fledgling heroes, and the subterranean kingdom of the dead. He is the ultimate threshold guardian, the divine psychopomp who guides souls to their final rest. His presence is a constant, subtle reminder that for all their power, the Olympians are bound to their domains. Only Hermes can cross all boundaries without consequence. The most peculiar attribute of this swift god is not his winged helmet or his caduceus staff, but his sandals, the Teleria. Mortals believe they simply grant him impossible speed. The truth is far stranger. The sandals are not woven from leather and gold, but from the very concept of a journey. They do not tread on earth or cloud. They tread on the idea of a path. Hermes can walk on a beam of sunlight, a trail of rumor, a line of sight, or a thread of fate. This is why he can deliver a message to anyone, anywhere. Because he can step onto the conceptual pathway that connects him to his destination. Zeus knows this. He needs to reach Hecate, and the goddess of the crossroads exists everywhere and nowhere at once. She cannot be summoned like a lesser god. She must be found, and only Hermes can find the path to her. Go to the keeper of the keys, Zeus commands, his voice tight. He will not use Hecate's name, for names have power, and the air is already poisoned by one. Tell her the lock on the pit is broken. Tell her a name has been spoken that should have remained silent. Ask her what she sees by the light of her torches. It is not a command, so much as a plea wrapped in the authority of a king. It is an admission that his light cannot penetrate this darkness. It is an appeal from one sovereign power to another. Historically, the Greeks would place stone pillars called hermai at crossroads and doorways, carved with Hermes' head. These markers consecrated the space as being under his protection, a ward against chaos. He was the master of all such transitional places, yet Zeus is now sending him from his own marked and protected territory into a domain far older and more ambiguous, a realm of choices that Hecate alone governs. Hermes nods once, his expression unreadable. He understands the gravity of the mission. Without a word he turns, and you watch him step off the gleaming floor of Olympus and onto nothing. For an instant, you see what he sees, a shimmering, twisting ribbon of twilight, path woven from all the secrets, doubts, and half-whispers in the world. It is the unlit path, and it descends sharply into a place of mist and shadow. He takes a step and then another, his form receding with impossible speed. He is the fastest of the gods, a being of pure motion. But as he begins his journey down this metaphysical road, a path he has traveled countless times, he feels a drag, a cold friction that has never been there before. The path itself feels sick, corrupted. The very concept of travel is being subtly warped. But as the messenger of the gods speeds toward the heart of all mystery, a terrifying question arises. Can speed even matter when your enemy is time itself? Is Hermes racing to deliver a message, or is he merely running down a path that is unspooling from a trap set for him before he was even born? While Olympus panics and Zeus weighs the gravity of a name, you remain with the one deity who is not surprised. Hecate does not need a messenger to tell her the foundations are cracking. Entire existence is predicated on feeling the subtle stresses in the architecture of reality. The seer's scream was not a revelation to her, but a confirmation. An alarm bell rung long after she had already smelled the smoke. She feels the frenetic energy of Hermes streaking toward her realm, a golden thread of urgency pulling through the gray tapestry of her domain, but she will not wait for him. To wait is to be reactive, and in a war against time itself, the first to react has already lost. She moves, not with speed, but with purpose. Turning from the main crossroads and walking down a path you have not seen before, it is a path woven from moth wings and secrets, leading to a place within her realm known only to her, the forge of stolen moonlight. It is not a forge of fire and iron. There is no anvil, no hammer, no roar of flames. You arrive at the edge of a perfectly still, circular pool. The liquid in it is not water, but pure, unreflective blackness, a liquid void. Above it, the misty sky of her domain is clear, revealing a single, impossible moon that shines with a light that feels borrowed. Cold luminescence, stolen from 1,000 sleeping worlds. This is where Hecate creates things that cannot be made, weapons for wars that cannot be seen. Hephaestus forges the physical armor of the deities, the swords and shields that clash in the glorious, foolish wars of Greek mythology. Here Hecate forges metaphysical tools, a compass that points to a lost memory, shield made from a paradox, a lock that can bind a concept. She is not a smith, she is a weaver of principles. Tonight, she needs a weapon, not to kill, but to bind. Not to destroy, but to restore a law that has been unmade. You watch as she begins her ritual. She dips her hands into the black pool, and when she raises them, they are dripping with liquid shadow. She holds them up to the stolen moon, and the cold light clings to the darkness, solidifying into shimmering, silken threads. This is her raw material, light and its absence woven together. But it is not enough. A weapon against Cronus needs more than just elemental principles. It needs a specific venom. She reaches out with her will, not into the physical world, but into the world of essences, of mythic truths. She plucks an idea from the earth. It is the spectral signature of a plant, aconite, or wolfsbane. This is her plant, a flower of terrible power and grim origin. Ancient mysteries and local legends whisper that the first aconite plant sprang from the ground where the toxic saliva of Cerberus, the hound of Hades, fell when the mighty Heracles dragged him into the sunlit world as one of his labors. The plant's essence carries the rage of the underworld, the pain of a chthonic creature exposed to light, the very definition of a threshold being violated. It is a poison born of a torn boundary, and she will use it to mend another. She drips the ghostly essence of the aconite into her hands. The threads of light and shadow hiss and writhe, coiling around the venomous idea. Now, for the final component, she listens, her head tilted, sifting through the psychic static of the cosmos. She finds the echo of the seer's scream, the raw frequency of terror, pulls it into her creation as the final, binding harmonic. The threads wrap tighter and tighter, twisting into a form that is both complex and terribly simple. It solidifies in her palm. It is not a sword. It is a key. This is its bizarre defining quality. It is a physical object with no fixed physical properties. It seems to be carved from polished obsidian, yet it is weightless. It feels colder than ice, yet it does not numb the skin. Shape shimmers, the teeth of the key constantly reconfiguring, shifting through a million intricate patterns a second. It is a master key for a lock that does not yet exist, a key made of moonlight, shadow, poison, and fear. It is a weapon designed to turn a lock on time itself. As she closes her hand around the newly forged key, she feels a profound and immediate shift in the cosmos. The ambient, unfocused pressure emanating from Tartarus, the slow leak of primordial will, suddenly coalesces. It snaps into focus like a vast, singular eye-opening in the abyss, and staring directly at her. Before, she was a distant observer. Now, by creating a direct countermeasure, a specific answer to his power, she has announced herself. She has become a player on the board. The whisper from Tartarus is no longer a generalized miasma of dread. It is a focused beam of cold, ancient, and intelligent malice aimed squarely at the forge of stolen moonlight. She has the weapon. But in forging it, has she just revealed the one piece on the board that her enemy now knows he must remove at all costs? The key pulses in Hecate's hand like a captured heartbeat, a fragile counterpoint to the vast, unyielding will now fixating on her from the depths. But while she holds her newly forged weapon, you sense the shift in the air of the cosmos thickening, as if the very fabric of night is drawing breath. The focus of the Titan's malice does not lash out immediately. Cronus is no brute like his brother Titans, who wielded mountains as clubs. He is the architect of ages, the one who measured the span of creation and found it wanting. His first response to this challenge is not destruction, but recruitment. From the heart of Tartarus, where his consciousness flickers in and out of its temporal prison, he begins to weave an army. Not of flesh and bone, but of something far more insidious. Shadows born from forgotten sorrows. These are the echoes of pains long buried, regrets that mortals and even the deities have tried to erase from the annals of time. Cronus, master of unmaking, reaches back through the seams in his chains and pulls them forth, arming them with the sharp edges of what was lost. You feel the gathering like a storm on the horizon, but it manifests first in the quiet corners of the mortal world. In a forgotten village, on the slopes of Mount Othries, the ancient seat of Titan rule before the Olympians claimed the skies, an old widow sits by her hearth. The fire crackles softly, casting long shadows that dance like uneasy spirits. She has lived a life of quiet endurance, a husband lost to the sea, children scattered by war, a farm that yields just enough to stave off starvation. But tonight, as the embers die to a sullen glow, a memory stirs not her own, but one that feels like it. It is the sorrow of a shepherd from a bygone era, devoured by his own father in a fit of paranoid rage during the Titanomachy. the great war of Greek mythology that reshaped the heavens. This historical cataclysm, where the young gods overthrew their cannibalistic forebears, left scars not just on the earth, but in the collective unconscious of humanity. Local legends in places like the rugged Peloponnese still whisper of Titan's hunger, tales of fields that grew barren overnight, as if the ground itself remembered being swallowed. The shadow of that ancient grief detaches from the widow's mind, coalescing in the corner of the room. It takes form not as a monstrous beast, but as a spectral figure, a boy with hollow eyes, his tunic ragged and stained with phantom blood. He does not speak. He simply extends a hand, and in it materializes a relic from the past, a jagged shard of obsidian, etched with faded Titan script. This is one of Cronus's bizarre artifacts, the memory blades. They are not forged weapons, but fragments of unhealed wounds, edges that cut not flesh but the threads of resolve. To touch one is to relive the sorrow it embodies, amplified 1,000-fold, turning personal grief into a weaponized despair that spreads like contagion. The widow reaches out, compelled by an inexplicable pull, and the blade slices her palm. No blood flows. Instead, a wave of crushing isolation floods her. She collapses, her eyes glazing over as the shadow boy whispers a single command in a voice like cracking stone. Rise, remember, serve. This is how the army assembles. Not with thunderous marches, but with silent infections of the soul. In the bustling agora of Athens, a merchant pauses mid-bargain, gripped by the echo of a hero's unavenged betrayal, perhaps the shade of Theseus's forgotten companion, lost in the labyrinth of Crete. In the sacred groves of Dodona, where oak leaves rustled prophecies for the ancient kings, priest feels the weight of a star omen from the Titan age, a celestial alignment foretelling the devouring of light. These shadows, these memory wraiths, are Cronus's soldiers. They do not fight with swords. They erode the will to fight. They target the living heroes and lesser immortals, whispering doubts into the ears of warriors, turning the bold into the broken. One such wraith slips into the dreams of a young Spartan hoplite, arming him with a blade of his grandfather's battlefield regret, transforming his training spear into a tool of self-sabotage. Another haunts the edges of a nymph's pool, pulling forth the sorrow of a dryad whose tree was felled in the wars of old, her waters turning stagnant with induced apathy. The Titan's strategy is patient, surgical. He cannot yet break his chains fully, but through these proxies, he tests the defenses of the world above. The shadows move in packs, crossing invisible rivers of forgetfulness, guided by eclipses of the mind moments, when resolve wavers. They gather at thresholds, doorways, bridges, the liminal edges of forests where the wild meets the tamed. There, they perform twisted rituals, not of blood, but of invocation, chanting fragments of lost hymns. In the belly of time, all returns to seed. Their presence warps the air, filling it with the scent of damp cedar and iron rust. The sonic texture of sacred spaces turn profane distant temple bells tolling out of sync, whispers overlapping like a chorus of the damned. Hecate senses this mobilization from her forge, the key in her hand growing warmer, as if feeding on the rising tide of malice. The shadows are not yet aimed at her directly, but they circle, probing for weaknesses in the barriers between worlds. Hermes, streaking along his unlit path, encounters the first of them, a wraith blocking a conceptual bridge, its memory blade gleaming with the sorrow of a fallen star. He dodges, but the encounter slows him, plants a seed of unfamiliar hesitation. The army is small now, but growing, each new recruit a sorrow amplified into a soldier. Cronus is not just escaping, he is remaking the world in his image, one forgotten pain at a time. But as the shadows multiply, slipping into the cracks of mortal lives and divine complacence, the pressing question echoes through the gathering dark. Which vital memory, which pivotal hero's resolve will be the first to shatter under this unseen assault, opening the floodgates for the Titan's full return? The shadows of forgotten sorrows multiply like weeds in untended soil, their insidious creep forcing Hecate to act beyond her forge. The key she holds is a potent tool, but tools alone do not win wars against the inexorable. She needs an unbreakable vow, a reinforcement for the crumbling oath that once sealed Cronus away. Her domain touches all boundaries. But for a pact of this magnitude, one that binds even the deities she must cross into the underworld proper. To the source of all solemn promises, the river Styx. You follow her as she steps from the misty crossroads. Her torch is dimmed to a subtle glow that parts the veil between worlds. The path is a river crossing in itself, not of water, but of intent, a motif woven deep into the fabric of Greek mythology. Every sacred bargain begins with such a threshold, a reminder that oaths are not mere words but crossings into obligation. Where one side of the river is freedom and the other is forever altered. The descent is gradual, the air growing heavier with the scent of wet stone and eternal dampness. You pass the fields of asphodel, where shades drift in gray monotony, their lives reduced to echoes. Then deeper, to the churning banks of the Styx itself. This is no serene stream. It is a torrent of black, viscous water that roils with the weight of uncounted vows. The river is the oath-keeper of the cosmos, its currents carrying the essence of every promise sworn upon it. In ancient Thebes, local legends tell of mothers dipping their infants in its waters for invulnerability, as Thetis did with Achilles, sparing all but the heel she held, a historical echo of how the Styx's power was invoked in rituals to forge as unbreakable warriors among the heroes. But Hecate knows its deeper truth. The river does not grant boons without exacting a price. A blood price paid in the currency of the soul. She stands at the edge, the key clutched in one hand, her other extended over the foaming black. The water senses her presence and surges, forming eddies that whisper fragments of old oaths, a king's vow to his people, now a chain around his shade. A lover's promise, twisted into eternal regret. To bargain here is to invoke the archetype of the oath-keeper, a role the Styx fulfills with impartial cruelty. Hecate speaks, her voice calm and resonant, cutting through the roar like a blade through silk. Styx, daughter of Oceanus, witness of the divine, I call upon your current to bind what phrase. Lend me your unyielding flow to reseal the devouring king's prison. In return, I offer a fragment of my sight, the crossroads unseen by any other. The river responds not with words, but with a bazaar. It's a tactile anomaly that marks its artifacts as unique among the mythic relics. As her words hang in the air, tendrils of black water rise like living ink, coiling around her extended hand. They do not burn or freeze. Instead, they age what they touch, but in a quirky, selective way. Her skin does not wrinkle. Rather, the water imparts a patina of antiquity to her very essence, making her torches flicker with the light of stars long extinguished. This is the Styx's peculiar temperament. It does not destroy in the moment, but accelerates the inevitable, turning the present into a preview of entropy. Legends among the chthonic folk whisper that oaths sworn here. Promiser feels the weight of their vows' future burden immediately, a premature echo of the cost, ensuring no one enters lightly. The bargain solidifies. The tendrils withdraw, leaving in her palm a vial of Stygian water, no larger than a mortal's thimble, yet heavy as leaden fate. It is the river's boon. A single drop can infuse any pact with unbreakable force, compelling even the Titans to honor it. Hecate seals the vial into the key, watching as the obsidian surface absorbs the black liquid. Its teeth now etched with faint, glowing veins like rivers on a map of the underworld. The pact is made. The key is empowered. But as she turns to leave, a chill realization settles. The Styx demands balance. In offering a fragment of her sight, she has not just given knowledge. She has invited the river's current into her domain. Now, every crossroads she guards will carry a subtle undercurrent of the Styx's entropy, slow erosion of choices. Where paths once branching freely now converge toward inevitable ends. The vow is unbreakable, yes, but it is a double-edged sword. It strengthens her weapon against Cronus, yet it poisons her own realm, turning thresholds of possibility into funnels of predestination. Sacred bargains always carry such costs, traded memories for power, silence for insight. She feels it already, a crossroads in Arcadia flickering, its options narrowing like a noose. As she ascends back toward the veil, the vials wait a constant reminder. The shadows of Cronus's army stir in response. They sense the shift, their sorrow wreaths, clustering at the edges of her paths, drawn by the new gravity of fate. Hermes, still en route, brushes against one, his speed faltering as a memory blade nicks his resolve. The Titan's malice sharpens, probing the fresh vulnerability. Hecate has armed herself, but at what hidden price? The question that lingers in the damp echo of the river's roar is, will this empowered key restore the oath? Or will the Styx's curse unravel her dominion from within before she can even strike? The Stygian violess weight lingers in Hecate's grasp as she emerges from the underworld's chill embrace. But the ripples of her bargain do not stop at her domain. They pulse upward, threading through the earth's core like veins of cold mercury, till they reach the lofty heights where the deities hold court. You stand once more on Olympus, but the eternal golden light feels tarnished now, as if a fine layer of dust has settled over the marble halls and nectar fountains. The air, once thick with the perfume of ambrosia and blooming lotuses, carries a faint metallic tang like the aftertaste of a storm that never fully breaks. This is Zeus's realm, the pinnacle of divine order, yet even here the unseen war's tendrils are coiling. The king of gods shifts on his throne. It's a massive seat carved from living thundercloud and inlaid with veins of celestial gold. Its arms shaped like coiled eagles ready to strike. He has ruled for ages, his scepter a thunderbolt forged in the Cyclopes' volcanic forges. But tonight, that rule feels like a garment grown threadbare. You feel it with him, a subtle fraying at the edges of his power. It begins as a whisper in the ether, the same psychic poison that birthed Cronus' shadow army, but amplified by the Titan's growing awareness. Zeus's dominion over the skies is absolute in theory as storms bend to his will, eagles carry his gaze across the world, but in practice it relies on the unspoken laws that underpin all creation. The oath Hecate seeks to mend was one such law, a cosmic river crossing that separated the age of Titans from the age of Olympians. Now, with that oath unraveling, Zeus senses his authority leaking away, not in grand cataclysms, but in quiet erosions. The summer squall over the plains of Argos fizzles into harmless mist before it can unleash its fury. A prayer from a desperate farmer in Boeotia reaches him as a muffled echo, the words dissolving midway through the clouds. These are the first signs of fraying omens as subtle as a star's light dimming on the horizon during the season of the dog star, when Sirius rises in the heat of late. Summer tests even the god's patience. He rises from his throne, pacing the vast hall where murals depict the Titano-Machitha Great War of Greek mythology that secured his reign. Those battles were fought with bronze spears and obsidian-tipped arrows, amid the sacred groves of Dodona, where oak leaves rustled with prophetic winds. Local legends from the oracle there, one of the oldest in the Hellenic world, recount how Zeus consulted the whispering trees before his final assault on Cronus, learning the precise alignment of stars that would ensure victory. That historical consultation, woven into rituals where priests inscribed questions on lead tablets and buried them at the site's roots, underscores the fragility of divine rule. Even the mightiest king sought counsel from the unseen. Now, Zeus feels that same uncertainty gnawing at him. His thunderbolt, the ultimate artifact of Olympian might, hums in his hand with a dissonant note, as if its core lightning is straining against an invisible barrier. This is the quirky, almost whimsical detail that marks Zeus among the deities. His throne is not merely a seat of power, but a living barometer of cosmic balance. Crafted from the condensed essence of storms during the equinox when day and night wage their eternal duel, it responds to disruptions in the natural order with physical symptoms. When harmony prevails, it feels like sitting on a bed of warm clouds, supportive and invigorating. But now, as Cronus's influence seeps in, the throne grows uncomfortably rigid, its eagle armrests digging into his palms like talons. It is a bizarre artifact, this seat taboo for any other god to touch. For to sit upon it is to invite a surge of raw sky power that could rend a lesser immortal asunder. Zeus avoids it now, preferring to stand at the hall's edge, gazing out over the ethereal vista of floating isles and cascading auroras. Yet even here the view warps subtly. A distant peak, once sharp as a spearhead, blurs at the edges, as if time is softly dissolving its form. The other Olympians sense it too, though they cloak their unease in familiar vanities. Athena sharpens her spear with deliberate strokes, her owl perched watchful on her shoulder. Poseidon grips his trident, the sea god's domain rumbling faintly in sympathy below. But none dare voice the fear that unites them. the return of the father who swallowed them whole. Zeus convenes no council. Such gatherings are for mortal squabbles or heroic quests. This is deeper, a psychological tension that demands solitary reckoning. He performs a private ritual, one passed down from his mother Rhea, dipping his fingers into a cedar bowl of sacred water drawn from the springs of Ida, where he was hidden as an infant from Cronus's devouring gaze. He murmurs an invocation, tracing sigils in the air that glow briefly with stormlight. Oaths live in the cut. Let no blade turn back the storm. It is a hymnal fragment, a proverb etched into the stone of Cretan caves, meant to reaffirm his bond to the laws that birthed him. Yet as the sigils fade, the fraying intensifies. A cursed relic manifests unbidden in his mind's Aja vision of Cronus's sickle. The flint-bladed tool used to castrate Uranus and seize the heavens, now rusting in the pit but whispering of reclaimed power. The sonic texture of Olympus shifts, the distant lyre music sours into minor keys. The temple bells on the slopes below, tolling a beat-off rhythm, like a heart skipping under strain, Hermes' absence weighs heavier. The messenger's path is delayed, his usual swift relay of news reduced to silence. Zeus clenches his fist, lightning crackling between his fingers, but it sparks weakly, fizzling against the ether. The king of gods, architect of the new order, feels the weight of an older one pressing down. The unseen war is no longer confined to shadows and crossroads. It is fraying the very throne from which he rules. But as the metallic temp sharpens in the air, carrying the faint damp scent of the Styx far above its banks, the question that thunders unspoken in Zeus's mind is, how long can he hold the skies before the Titaness poison reaches his core and turns the storm's fury against itself? With Zeus's throne creaking under the strain of encroaching shadows, the burden of discovery falls back to Hecate, who has no time for the Olympians' gilded hesitations. The key in her hand, now veined with Stygian black, hums with potential. But potential alone cannot mend a law that has been unmade at its root. She needs knowledge, the kind that predates even the Titans, a loophole in the cosmic architecture, a forgotten clause in the primordial oath that bound Cronus. Her paths twist again, leading you not downward to the pit or upward to the thunderous heights, but sideways, into a realm that exists folded within the folds of reality itself, the library of lost fates. It is a place whispered of in the dim corners of ancient mysteries, a repository not of books or scrolls, but of the discarded possibilities of the universe. Here, every path not taken, every destiny averted, every heroic deed that never was, lingers as a tangible echo. Archived in the silence of what might have been, you step through a threshold of rippling air, a river crossing of the mind where the banks are lined with shelves that stretch into infinity. The library is vast, a labyrinth of towering stacks that defy geometrials that curve back on themselves, ladders that lead to floating mezzanines suspended by threads of spider silk fate. The air is dry and carries the faint, papery scent of aged cedar and incense from long-extinguished rituals, mingled with the musty undertone of regret. No mortal has ever entered here. Even among the deities, only Hecate holds the key to its doors. For she is the fate weaver's shadow, the one who guards the choices that shape the weave. The floors are paved with obsidian tiles, etched with star omens from forgotten eclipses, each one a map of a crisis averted or a taboo invoked. As you walk, the tiles whisper underfoot, murmuring fragments of unlived lives. A king's oath broken in a distant age. A hero's sword turned to rust before it could draw blood. Hecate moves with deliberate grace, her torches casting pools of white light that reveal not the shelves, but the absences between them, the hollows where fates were erased. This is her search, not for a written law, but for the gap where Cronus slipped his will through. She trails her fingers along the edges of spectral tomes, volumes bound in the hides of mythical beasts, like the Nemean lion, whose golden fur was said in local legends from the Argolade region to have been impervious to blades, until Heracles rested it in one of his labors. That historical feat, celebrated in the festivals of Neomia, where athletes competed in the hero's honor, underscores the theme of boundaries tested, and reclaimed a motif Hecate invokes now, as she probes for weaknesses in the divine order. The library responds to her touch, volumes unfurling like blooming nightshade, their pages alive with holographic illusions of alternate histories. Zeus falling to his father instead of rising, Olympus crumbling into the sea, mortals unbound by the whims of deities and forging their own chaotic pantheon. Deeper in, she reaches the core stacks, where the most perilous fates are stored. Here, the air thickens with psychological tension, the sonic texture shifting to a low hum like distant temple bells tolling for the dead. She seeks the section on primordial oaths, a cursed relic among the library's artifacts, the Loom of Nyx. This is the bizarre heart of the collection, a massive frame woven from threads of pure night, its shuttle a sliver of obsidian that clicks with an anomalous function. Unlike mortal looms that create fabric from yarn, this one unravels reality itself. To touch it is to risk pulling a thread that might dissolve the present, the taboo so profound that even Hecate approaches with caution, her breath steady, but her torches flaring brighter. The loom's quirky detail lies in its temperament. It does not weave forward, but backward, replaying the unmaking of events in reverse, allowing the viewer to witness the birth of voids. She activates it with a drop of her own ichor blood of the gods, sharp and luminous. The shuttle begins its eerie dance. Threads snapping taut, and then slackening like the pulse of a dying star. Visions flood the space around you. You see the oaths forging, Nyx, the eternal night, standing before a council of primordial forces in the time before the Titans. Her voice, of velvet thunder, declares the binding. Time shall not devour its fruit. The sickle turns outward, not in. Cronus, then lord of the golden age, swears upon the Styx's flow, his sickle gleaming with the blood price of his ambition, the emasculation of Uranus still fresh on its edge. But as the loom reverses, Hecate spots it, the loophole. In the moment of swearing, a star omen flickered in eclipse, where the moon's shadow lingered a heartbeat too long, casting doubt on the pack's purity. Cronus, ever the strategist, had woven a subtle contingency into his vow, a clause hidden in the eclipse's umbra, allowing him to unmake the oath if the wheel of ages turned fully against him. It was a sacred bargain with a hidden cost, a traded memory of his own vulnerability, buried so deep that even the Fate Weavers overlooked it during the Titanomachi. She commits the vision to memory, the loom clicking to a halt, with a final resonant snap. The key in her hand warms, absorbing the knowledge like a sponge, its teeth reconfiguring to match the loophole's pattern. This is the weapon she needs, not brute force, but precision, a way to seal the gap without unraveling the entire cosmic weave. Yet as she steps back, the library stirs, uneasily. The shelves creak, and a faint whisper echoes through the aisles. Not from the tiles, but from the voids between, a callback to the seer's scream. The name Cronus breathed like a curse. The Titan's awareness prickles at the edges of her mind. By delving into his past, she has drawn his gaze here to the very storehouse of his potential freedoms. Shadows of lost fates begin to coalesce. Sorrow wraiths, slipping from the stacks like ink from a quill, their memory blades glinting with the regrets of unsworn oaths. But as Hecate raises her torches to ward them off, the question that fades into the humming silence is, has she found the loophole in time, or has her search just handed Cronus the map to exploit it against her? The library's shadows retreat under the glare of Hecate's torches. But the knowledge you carry with her feels heavier than any tome from those infinite shelves. The loophole in the primordial oath is a fragile thread now woven into the key's obsidian heart, precise pattern ready to turn the lock on Cronus's unmaking. Yet as you step back through the rippling threshold, the crossroads realm shudders once more, not from the encroaching sorrow wraiths, but from a deeper convulsion, as if the entire cosmos has inhaled sharply. The air thickens with the scent of salt and ancient rain, the prelude to a storm not of Zeus's making. From the pit of Tartarus, where the Titan's consciousness flickers like a candle in a gale, a new manifestation surges forth. It is not an army of shadows this time, nor a whisper of poison. It is a relic, born of Cronus's essence, a single, iridescent drop that embodies his dominion over the ages. The Titan's tear, a drop of time itself. You sense it before you see it, a psychic ripple that warps the paths around you. The crossroads, usually a web of branching possibilities, now bend inward, converging on a single point in the mortal world, the wind-swept cliffs of Cape Sunion, where the Temple of Poseidon stands sentinel over the Aegean. This is a place of profound liminality, a threshold where sea meets sky, earth meets wave, natural river crossing of elements. Local legends from Attica passed down through generations of fishermen and sailors recount how the temple's marble columns were erected in the 5th century BCE to honor the sea god, but its true power lies in an older, unspoken role. During the Persian Wars, when Xerxes' fleet threatened Athens, Site's oracle tied to the Delphic tradition foretold a star omen that would signal victory or doom, celestial sign that aligned with eclipses to guide the Greek heroes like Themistocles. That historical invocation, woven into the rituals where priests burned incense of myrrh and cedar at the temple's altar, marked the site as a nexus for divine interventions, a place where sacred bargains with the sea could turn the tide of fate. Hecate arrives there in a swirl of mist, her form materializing amid the Doric columns that gleam white under the moon. The sea crashes below, a sonic texture of fury and rhythm. Iron and iron waves pounding the rocks like the clash of forgotten battles. But tonight, the temple feels charged, the air humming with an anomalous energy. The tear manifests not as a fall from the Titaness, though that is the myth mortals might whisper, but as a condensation from the ether, drawn from the seams in his temporal prison. It forms above the central altar a perfect sphere of liquid silver, no larger than a mortal's teardrop, yet vast in implication. This is the relic's bizarre defining quirk. It does not simply represent time, it is time, distilled and weaponized. Touch it and you do not age or rewind. You experience a drop's worth of eternity in an instant 1,000 years, compressed into a heartbeat, or a single second stretched into eons. Its surface shimmers with trapped visions, the birth of stars, the fall of empires, the quiet decay of a lover's vow. The taboo surrounding such artifacts in chthonic lore is absolute. To possess it invites the blood price of isolation. 4 times touch erodes all connections, turning allies into echoes and memories into dust. As Hecate approaches, the tear hovers, pulsing with Cronus's will. It is his power made manifest, a cursed relic sent as a gauntlet thrown into her domain. The Titan cannot yet break free, but through this drop he tests the boundaries, unmaking small pieces of the world to prove his reach. You watch as it descends slowly, defying gravity, and strikes the altar stone. No shatter follows. Instead, a ripple spreads a star omen inverted, the night sky above darkening as if an eclipse devours the moon prematurely. The columns age visibly, marble cracking like weathered bone, inscriptions fading from sharp cuts to blurred scratches. The sea below stills for a heartbeat, then surges backward, waves receding as if time itself is pulling the tide into retreat. This is Cronus's strategy, not conquest, but reversal, turning progress into regression. A nearby olive grove, sacred to Athena and tended by local deities and Attic rites, withers. Leaves curling back into buds, branches retracting to saplings, the earth reclaiming what was given. Hecate raises the key, its Stygian veins glowing in response, but the tear's influence lashes out first. A tendril of silver liquid extends, brushing her torch. The flame does not extinguish, rewinds, the fire shrinking from blaze to spark, to unlit wick, the cold white light revealing not absences, but erasures the path behind her, fading like a dream upon waking. She counters swiftly, invoking a ritual from her arsenal, a whispered epigraph from the library's depths. When stars shift, grief shifts with them, her voice weaving a barrier of shadow threads. The tendril recoils, but not before the drop's power claims a cost. A fragment of her sight, the one bargained to the Styx, warps further. She glimpses a labyrinth of futures where crossroads collapse into dead ends, choices funneled by the Titan's inexorable pull. The tear reforms on the altar, smaller now but undiminished in menace, a beacon calling more shadows. Sorrow wraiths converge from the sea mist, their memory blades glinting with the regrets of drowned sailors from the Persian era, amplifying the relic's reach. Hermes arrives at last, streaking in on wings of exhaustion, his caduceus staff dimmed by the unlit path's corruption. He sees the drop and halts. The quirky artifact's anomalous function pulling at his essence, the god of transitions feels his own journeys looping. Paths he has run 1,000 times now, curving back on themselves. The father's tear, he murmurs, a confessional note slipping into the calm narration. It weeps for what he consumed. It hungers still. Hecate nods, her methodical gaze fixed on the relic. This is no mere probe. It is a declaration. Cronus has weaponized his imprisonment, sending a piece of himself to erode the world from without while he works from within. The temple bells, silent for centuries, toll once low. Resonant clang like iron ringing under burdened breath, echoing the motif of thresholds violated. The ancient mysteries of Sunyan, once a bastion of Olympian faith, now cradled this drop of doom. Its silver surface, reflecting a cosmos, unraveling thread by thread. Hecate steps forward, key poised, but the tear pulses again, drawing power from the eclipse's lingering shadow. But as the relic's light casts warped reflections across the waves, the question that hangs in the secker. Salt-laced air is, can she contain this drop of time before it swells into a flood, drowning the present in the sorrows of ages past? The tear's silver pulse at Sunyan sends shockwaves through the ether, not just eroding the temple's stones, but rippling across the seas to distant shores where old pacts still hold sway. Hecate feels the disturbance keenly, her torches flaring as the key in her hand vibrates in sympathy, but she cannot pursue every thread. The Titan's malice is a labyrinth of diversions designed to stretch her thin across the world's thresholds. One such thread tugs northward, over the wind-dark waves and past the isles of the Hellenes, to the rugged coast of Colchis, where the Black Sea meets the wild Caucasus Mountains. You journey there now, the air sharp with the tang of pine, resin, and brine. The sonic texture, a constant roar of surf against jagged cliffs. This is a land of ancient exiles and forbidden knowledge, a place where the boundaries between mortal ambition and divine meddling blur like mist at dawn. In a tower of weathered basalt overlooking the Phasis River, sacred river crossing in the myths of the East, where Jason and the Argonauts once moored their ship, you find her, Medea, the witch of Colchis, high priestess of Hecate. She is no mere sorceress of tales. She is a vessel of the goddess's will, her bloodline tracing back to the sun god Helios through her grandfather, a lineage that carries the weight of celestial oversight. Medea kneels before a small altar in her chamber, the room cluttered with herbs, drying from the rafters' mandrake roots twisted like tormented souls, vials of mercury that shimmer unnaturally, and a central brazier where incense of myrrh curls upward in lazy spirals. Her hands, scarred from years of alchemical rites, trace sigils on a bronze mirror, invoking the triple-faced goddess for guidance. This is her daily ritual, a sacred bargain renewed each dawn, where she offers a drop of her blood as price for visions of the crossroads ahead. But tonight, the mirror does not reflect her sharp, dark eyes. It clouds with an eclipse's shadow, a star omen, unbidden and cold. Medea has always been Hecate's favored, the one who aided Jason in his quest for the Golden Fleece, betraying her own family to aid a foreign hero in the name of fate-weaving. Local legends from the Colchian shores, echoed in the oral traditions of the region's seafaring folk, recount how she rejuvenated Jason's aged father. Sown by boiling him in a cauldron with herbs and incantations, a historical nod to the real pharmacopoeia of ancient herbalists in the Black Sea trade routes, where priestesses like her brewed elixirs from aconite and hellebore to heal or harm. That act celebrated in the festivals of the fleece, where ram's horns were worn as talismans.
Outmarked her
As a threshold guardian in her own right, bridging the mortal quest with divine intervention. Yet her power came at a blood price. Exile from her homeland, a heart scarred by Jason's later betrayal, and a soul forever tuned to the goddess's whispers. She has lived in quiet seclusion since, her tower a sanctuary of ancient mysteries, far from the heroes of Greece who now fade into legend. But Cronus's tears reached her like a hook in still water. The eclipse in the mirror deepens, and she feels the pull of psychic drag, as if an invisible current from the Styx is tugging at her essence. It is not Hecate's call, though it mimics it. It is the Titan's poison, seeping through the relic's influence to exploit old vulnerabilities. Medea rises, her robes whispering against the stone floor, and steps to the window. The night sky above Colchis is alive with unnatural fervor, stars shifting in patterns that recall the Titan age, an omen of devouring cycles. The pull intensifies. drawing her toward a cursed relic hidden in her tower's depths, the Cauldron of Rebirth, the very vessel she used for Azon, this artifact. Bizarre in its function among the tools of deities and their servants, does not merely restore life, it reverses it selectively, unmaking wounds while amplifying regrets. Its quirk lies in the residue it leaves a faint, iridescent sheen on the skin of those it touches, marking them as touched by the wheel, a taboo that invites spectral visitations from the undone past. Mortals shun it, fearing the labyrinth of memories it summons, but Medea has guarded it as Hecate's charge, a counter to the entropy of time. The vision in the mirror clarifies. She sees the tear at Sunyan, its silver drop pulsing like a second heart, and beyond it, the vast form of Cronus chained in Tartarus, his eye cold and knowing fixed on her. The Titans will whispers through the glass, not in words but in emotions, a flood of her deepest sorrows. The betrayal by Jason amplified into a cosmic ache, the exile that severed her from her deities and kin. Serve the true king, the whisper coils, and reclaim what was stolen. It is a sacred bargain twisted, offering to rewind her pains in exchange for her Aiden-witting pawn in his unseen war. Medea resists at first, her lips moving in a counter-incantation, a hymnal fragment from Hecate's rites. Oaths live in the cut, that no shadow turn the key, but the pull is relentless. The cauldron beginning to hum unbidden, its surface bubbling with phantom vapors that smell of damp cedar and iron rust. She clutches the mirror, her knuckles white. As the psychological tension builds a war within her mind, the goddess's calm guidance clashing with the Titan's devouring logic. A first-person confession slips from her lips, raw and intimate. I thought my betrayals were mine alone to bear, but now they call me back like ghosts demanding tribute. The relic's influence warps the tower, walls flickering with illusions of her past. Jason's ship, the Argo, sailing backward into the mist, her children's cries echoing from rooms long empty. The river below, the Phasis, churns unnaturally, its waters darkening as if stained by the Styx's flow, a motif of boundaries breached. Sorrow wreaths, drawn by the tear's beacon, begin to gather at the tower's base, their forms coalescing from the mountain fog shades of Chalcian warriors lost in forgotten eclipses, memory blades poised to sever her resolve. Hecate senses the corruption from afar, her own paths twisting toward Chalcis. But the distance is a deliberate ploy by Cronus, stretching her across the map of fates. Medea, unwitting pawn, feels her will fraying. The cauldron's sheen creeps up her arms, marking her as the Titan's conduit. She could resist, invoke a full ritual with incense and blood to seal the relic away. But the pull promises erasure of her scars, a traded memory for loyalty, silence for power. The stars above align in a dire omen, the eclipse's shadows swallowing the moon whole. The Witch of Chalcis, once a weaver of heroic destinies, teeters on the edge of her own crossroads. But as the whispers grow louder, coiling around her like the serpents on her altar, the question that grips her heart in the tower's dim light is, will she shatter the mirror and call upon her goddess, or will the Titan's tear draw her into his labyrinth turning Hecate's own priestess into the key that unlocks his chains? The tower in Chalcis trembles as Medea's resistance frays, the cauldron's iridescent sheen climbing her arms like vines claiming a forgotten ruin. But the true turning point arrives not from the Titan's whispers or the witch's inner turmoil. It descends from the heavens themselves, celestial sign that paints the night sky in triune horror. The night of the triple moon. You feel the shift as Hecate does, her paths across the world converging in a web of urgency, drawing her essence toward her beleaguered priestess while the key in her hand pulses like a second heart. The crossroads realm, already tainted by the Styx's entropy, now vibrates with an ancient rhythm motif of star omens woven deep into the fabric of Greek mythology. This is no ordinary lunar cycle. It is a rare alignment, a threshold in the celestial dance where the moon's face multiplies, reflecting not just the Earth's shadow, but the echoes of primordial powers. In the lore of the East, where Chalcis meets the myths of the West, such nights were harbingers of divine intervention. Moments when the veil between realms thinned to gossamer. You stand with Medea at the tower's summit, the sea wind whipping her robes as the sky transforms. The single moon, usually a serene sickle in the waxing phase, fractures before your eyes. Its light splits into three distinct orbs, One, the familiar silver disk, pale and steadfast. The second, a blood-red crescent stained by an eclipse's umbra. The third, a ghostly triple ethereal and inverted, as if pulled from the underworld's mirror. This is the triple moon, Hecate's sigil made manifest, a bizarre and potent artifact of the cosmos, its anomalous function tied to her very being. Unlike the sun's predictable path, which Zeus claims as his chariot, the triple moon does not illuminate uniformly, empowers selectively, its light carrying a quirky temperament that favors the chthonic over the Olympian. To stand beneath it is to feel choices amplified. Paths diverge wider. Secrets spill like wine from a cracked amphora. But for those attuned to the goddess, it grants a surge of insight, a blood price paid in heightened vulnerability. Taboos surround its viewing, mortals avert their eyes in rituals, lest the triple gaze steal their shadows, leaving them soulless wanderers. The historical resonance of this sign echoes in the local legends of the Pontic coast, where ancient Chalcidian priestesses, precursors to Medea's line, would gather at river crossings, like the faces during such alignments, to perform the triple offering. They burnt bundles of cedar and obsidian shards, inscribed with hymns to the moon goddess, invoking her to guide heroes like the Argonauts through treacherous seas. This practice, rooted in the 7th century BCE trade routes that linked Colchis to Ionian Greece, blended ancient mysteries with seafaring lore, ensuring safe passage for merchants bearing spices and gold. Medea, steeped in that tradition, recognizes the omen immediately. It is Hecate's call, a sacred bargain renewed under the stars, pulling her from the Titan's grasp. The triple moon's light bathes the tower, and the cauldron stills, its bubbling ceasing as if commanded. The sorrow wraiths at the base recoil, their forms dissolving in the triune glow, memory blades melting like wax under divine scrutiny. Empowered, Medea straightens, her eyes dark pools reflecting the 3 moons clearing of the Titan's fog. She performs an instinctive ritual, dipping her scarred fingers into a bowl of river water mixed with garlic and honey, a taboo blend that wards off devouring forces. When stars shift, grief shifts with them, she intones. The epigraph, a callback to Hecate's forge, her voice gaining strength as the light infuses her. The sheen on her skin fades, not erased but transmuted, turning from curse to armora, faint luminescence that marks her as the goddess's oracle seer in this moment. Visions flood her, glimpses of the tear at Sunyan, Cronus's chains fraying in the pit, Zeus's throne cracking like parched earth. But more crucially, she sees the loophole, Hecate uncovered, the eclipse's hidden claws in the primordial oath. Now exposed under the triple moon's relentless gaze, the celestial sign does not just empower her. It broadcasts a lighthouse in the night, revealing the unseen war's contours to all who watch the skies. Across the world, the alignment exposes the other. In Tartarus, Cronus feels the triple moon like a blade against his bindings. His consciousness, flickering in the temporal loop, surges against the seams, the adamantine chains groaning with a sound like mountains birthing earthquakes. The 3 lights pierce even the void's depths, illuminating the flaw in his prison, the very loophole he exploited, now laid bare. His malice coils tighter, a psychological tension building as the moon's phases mock his dominion. The silver one for the present he seeks to unmake, the red for the blood price of his past, devouring the ghostly for the futures he craves to consume. A first-person interlude breaks through, not from Medea, but from the Titan himself. A rare confessional whisper echoing up the pit. I swallowed worlds to end their pain. Yet this light mocks my mercy. It is a lie wrapped in grandeur, but the exposure weakens him, his tear at Sunyan flickering, its silver dimming as the triple moon's power counters the relic's entropy. Hecate arrives in a swirl of mist, materializing beside her priestess, the key raised to catch the triune light. The two share a silent communion, the goddess's torches syncing with the moon's, casting a quadruple glow that seals the tower against further incursions. Hermes, trailing in her wake, exhausted from his corrupted path, witnesses the alignment with wide eyes, the trickster god. Ever the threshold guardian feels the celestial bargain shift the balance. The night of the triple moon empowers Hecate's side, Medea's will fortified. The loophole mapped for the key's turn, Sararathas scattered like leaves in a gale. But it exposes Cronus utterly, his strategies laid open like a dissected labyrinth. Every cursed relic and shadow soldier vulnerable under the unrelenting stare. The sea below calms, the faceless river flowing smoother, a motif of restored boundaries. Incense smoke from the altar curls upward, carrying prayers to the deities who slumber unaware. While the sonic texture of the night waves lapping in triple rhythm, distant bells tolling in harmony, builds an epic cadence of impending resolution. Yet as the moons begin their slow convergence, the alignments peak, approaching like a drawn bow, the empowered light reveals one final chilling detail, a fourth shadow lurking in the eclipse's heart. A trickster element Cronus has hidden even from his own unraveling. Medea gasps, her vision piercing deeper, and Hecate's grip tightens on the key. But as the triple moon crests, bathing Colchis in its otherworldly radiance, the question that lingers in the charged air is, what hidden contingency has the Titan woven into this exposure, ready to turn the celestial sign against its wielders and plunge the crossroads into eternal night? The triple moon's convergence casts its fading triune glow across the seas, empowering Hecate and Medea while stripping Cronus's contingencies bare, but the light does not pierce the deepest veils. It filters downward, through layers of earth and shadow, illuminating the divided halls of the underworld, where the war's next threshold awaits. You descend with Hecate, not as a physical fall, but a deliberate crossing, your consciousness threading past the river crossings of the upper dead, the Acheron with its toll of obels, the Lethe with its fog of forgotten names, until you reach the core of Hades' realm, Elysium's verdant fields, juxtaposed against the ashen wastes of Tartarus. This is Persephone's kingdom, a domain split between bloom and barrenness, light and endless night. As queen of the underworld and goddess of spring, she rules the cycle of death and rebirth, her pomegranate-stained lips a symbol of the sacred bargain that binds her to this place half the year. Yet tonight, under the echo of the celestial sign, her divided realm trembles, the very soil cracking with the strain of allegiances, pulling in opposing directions. You stand in the grand throne room of the underworld palace, a cavernous space hewn from black marble, veined with veins of glowing asphodel. The air is cool and carries the faint, sweet rot of pomegranate seeds mingled with the damp cedar scent of eternal earth. Torches flicker with a pale, unyielding flame, casting long shadows that dance like uneasy shades. Persephone sits upon her throne, a seat carved from entwined roots and obsidian, its arms shaped like budding vines that curl protectively around her. She is the underworld guide in this chthonic court, the one who leads souls through the labyrinth of judgment. But her expression is one of profound unease, psychological tension etched in the furrow of her brow. The triple moon's light seeps through a distant rift in the ceiling, bathing her in a fractured glow that highlights the duality of her form, one side illuminated in soft spring greens, the other shrouded in winter's pallor. This is her eternal motif, a river crossing between life and death, but Cronus's rising poison threatens to unbalance it, turning her kingdom into a single, devouring void. The hidden contingency revealed by the moon's a subtle weave of Titan influence. To the underworld's foundations manifests here as a creeping blight. The Elysian fields beyond the palace walls, where heroes like Achilles and Odysseus dwell in honored repose, begin to wither. Golden grasses curling back to seed, star omens flickering in the cavern's sky like dying embers. Local legends from the Eleusinian mysteries celebrated annually in the Attic plains since the Mycenaean era recount. Persephone's abduction by Hades is a historical archetype of seasonal change, with initiates reenacting her descent through torchlit processions and sacred dramas that invoked her return to bring forth the harvest. Those rituals, blending ancient mysteries with agrarian rites, emphasized her role as fate weaver for the earth's bounty, a blood price paid in 6 months of subterranean rule for the renewal above. Now, that renewal falters. The blight spreads from Tartarus's proximity, Cronus's psychic poison seeping upward like roots inverting the cycle, threatening to make her spring eternal winter. Persephone rises, her gown whispering like wind through barren branches, and summons her council. Hades, her consort, and the oath-keeper of this realm, stands at her side, his bident staff gripped tightly, the three-pronged artifact humming with restrained fury. He is the threshold guardian here, barring the pit's horrors from spilling into the ordered halls, but even he feels the fraying. The father's shadow stirs below. He intones, his voice a rumble like distant thunder in a tomb. Cerberus, the three-headed hound at the palace gates, winds uneasily, his bizarre quirk on display. Each head attuned to a different boundary, the central to the living world, the left to the shades, the right to the primordial deeps now, barking in discordant harmony, sensing the Titan's approach. This anomaly, a relic of chthonic crafting from the time before the Olympians, allows the beast to guard multiple realms at once. But its temperamental howls carry a taboo. To heed them too closely invites madness, a labyrinth of overlapping echoes that trap the listener in endless pursuit. The queen must choose a side. Loyalty pulls her toward Olympus, to Zeus her uncle, and the deities who claim kinship. Their light the counter to the devouring dark she has learned to navigate. Yet the underworld's laws bind her to deeper allegiances, the chthonic pantheon, including Hecate as her guide during her descent, and the ancient forces that predate the Titanomachy. Cronus's influence whispers temptations, a full return to the surface. Unyoked from Hades' bargain, in exchange for neutrality or subtle aid. It manifests as visions in the throne room's shadows, cursed relics materializing like mirages a spectral pomegranate. Its seeds pulsing with reverse time, promising to unwind her abduction and restore her maiden freedom. The fruit's anomalous function is its core quirk. Each seed, when swallowed, does not bind, but erases a memory. A traded silence for oblivion, turning sacred bargains into forgotten whispers. Persephone hesitates, her hand hovering near the illusion. The psychological intrigue building as the room's sonic texture shifts distant. Echoes of the triple moon's tolling bells mingling with the grind of Tartarus' chains, iron far below. Hecate arrives through a side archway, mist coiling around her like loyal hounds, the key concealed in her palm. Medea follows, marked by the moon's light, her presence a bridge from the east. The loophole calls for unity, Hecate says, her calm voice cutting the tension, a first-person note slipping in. I felt your descent once, as my own. Do not let the pit claim another. Persephone meets her gaze. The two goddesses, sharing a moment of intimate oracle, see her communion. Visions of the unseen war flashing between them, shadow armies massing, the tears swelling at Sunyon, Zeus's fraying throne. Hades nods grimly, invoking an epigraph carved into the palace walls. Oaths live in the cut. When stars shift, grief shifts with them. It is a callback to the primordial vow, now threatened by the eclipse's lingering shadow. The choice weighs heavy. Aid Hecate, and Persephone risks her divided kingdom collapsing into full allegiance with the Olympians. Her underworld guide role diminished to mere custodian. Side with Cronus, and she embraces the devouring logic, potentially unmaking her own half-life above. The blight advances, asphodel wilting to dust, a river of shadow crossing from the pit toward the palace. Cerberus lunges at the threshold, his head snapping at the encroaching dark. But the hound's barks falter, one head turning traitorously toward the depths. The queen steps forward, her decision a pivotal trial in the escalating saga. The blood price of her choice already etching lines of resolve on her face. The ancient mysteries of her realm, once a balance of death and renewal, now demand a stand against the Titan's entropy. But as the illusory pomegranate rolls toward her feet, its seeds glinting with promises of erasure, the question that echoes in the throne room's cooling air is, will Persephone shatter the relic and seal her pact with the light, or will the allure of unbinding draw her into the labyrinth handing? Cronus, the underworld's key to flood the heavens with night. Persephone's throne room fades into the ether as her choice hangs unresolved, a threshold poised on the edge of decision. But the unseen war does not pause for royal deliberations. It surges forward, coiling its tendrils around the threads of motion and message. Targeting the one who bridges all realms, Hermes, the divine messenger. You follow him now, not on the open paths of wind and whim he usually treads, but into a snare woven from the fabric of perception itself. The god of transitions, ever swift and sly, has evaded the sorrow wraiths and the tears' backward pull, but Cronus's magic, patient and profound, has anticipated his course. As he streaks toward Hecate's crossroads after his detour to Colchis, the unlit path warps beneath his Talaria sandals. What was once a ribbon of twilight concepts twists into a labyrinth of twisted realities. A cursed relic of the Titan's design, trapping the trickster in a maze where every turn is a lie of the mind. You feel the shift with him. The air, once crisp with the freedom of flight, thickens into a cloying fog that tastes of iron and forgotten incense. The path, which should unfold like a scroll under his steps, folds inward, walls rising from nothingness, walls of shimmering mirage, translucent as spider silk, yet solid as obsidian when pressed. This is the labyrinth of twisted realities, not the stone and minotaur prison of Crete that Daedalus built for King Minos, but a metaphysical echo, a psychological extension of that ancient structure. Local legends from the Minoan palaces of Knossos, excavated in the early 20th century and revealing frescoes of bull-leaping rituals, whisper of how the labyrinth symbolized the soul's journey through illusion, a rite where initiates navigated darkened chambers lit by oil lamps to confront their inner beasts. That historical archetype, blended with Greek mythology's themes of entrapment and escape, now manifests as Cronus's weapon, a living delusion, where realities overlap like layers of a palimpsest, each one overriding the last. Hermes halts, his caduceus staff held aloft, its twin serpents coiling uneasily around the winged rod. The staff's anomalous function, a quirky artifact among the tools of the deities, is its ability to soothe chaos's touch, calms tempests, or quiets warring souls. But here in the Titan's snare, it backfires spectacularly. The serpents hiss not in harmony but in discord, their scales rasping like whispers in a confessional. One urging him left toward a door that promises Olympus's golden light, the other right, toward a chasm echoing with Tartarus's grind. This bizarre temperament of the caduceus, a taboo for the god to wield in moments of true doubt, amplifies confusion rather than resolving it. To lean on it too heavily invites a blood price of divided will, splitting the user's mind into echoing fragments. Hermes, the threshold guardian and patron of thieves who once stole Apollo's cattle as a newborn trick, feels the first crack, a subtle vertigo as if his essence is being unraveled, thread by thread. The labyrinth presses in, sonic texture a disorienting symphony, distant temple bells, tolling out of sync the drip of water that never pools, the faint, anomalous whisper of his own footsteps, echoing back from futures not yet walked. You navigate with him each turn a trial. One corridor leads to a river crossing of illusions, the Styx's black waters flowing uphill. Its current pulling memories from his mind, the playful thefts of his youth, the heroic errands for Zeus now replaying in reverse, his laughter turning to cries of unraveling. Another path mimics a star-omened constellations, shifting into eclipses that blot out the path ahead, sacred bargains from his past. Flickering like dying embers, the pact with the hundred-eyed. Argus now twisted so the watcher's gaze turns inward, multiplying his own doubts. Cronus's magic does not assault with force. It erodes with precision, turning the messenger's speed into stasis, his cunning into madness. The Titan, from his pit, feeds the snare with drops of his tear, each infusion warping the wall's further realities bleeding together. Where Hermes glimpses himself as a chained prisoner, or as Cronus's herald, proclaiming the devouring king's return. A first-person interlude breaks through Hermes' calm facade. His voice a strained whisper amid the fog. I've slipped every net the gods could weave, but this. This is the weave of my own thoughts turned against me, he presses on. Invoking a ritual of his own, a quick dash of nectar from a hidden vial at his belt. A taboo elixir meant for dire straits, its texture like liquid starlight but now souring on his tongue. It buys him moments of clarity, revealing glimpses of the true path, a faint thread of Hecate's torchlight weaving through the illusions. But the labyrinth adapts a labyrinthine motif, escalating the trials, spawning doppelgangers, shadowy. Hermes figures that mimic his every move, each one a twisted reality, where a choice went awry. One who failed Zeus and was cast into the void, another who joined the Titans in their fall. The psychological intrigue builds, the god's mind fracturing under the weight. His winged helmet tilting as visions assault him, heroes he guided, now devouring their own quests. Deities unraveling into primal chaos. Deeper in, the core chamber awaits, a circular void ringed by mirrors of polished bronze, reflecting not his form, but infinite regressions of the cosmos unmaking itself. The tier's influence culminates here, hovering silver drop that pulses with the Titan's patient malice, its light casting eclipses across the mirrors. Hermes reaches for it, staff extended, but the touch ignites the madness. Fully the serpents on his caduceus writhe free. Coiling around his arms in a binding embrace, their whispers overlapping into a cacophony of regrets. He collapses to one knee, the trickster reduced to a pilgrim lost in his own domain, the blood price of his entrapment a traded silence for the messages he carries. Hecate's light flickers closer, drawn by the disturbance. While Persephone's choice in the underworld echoes faintly, her potential alliance a distant beacon. The sorrow wraiths excluded from this divine trap circled the labyrinth's edges, waiting for the messenger to break. The ancient mysteries of such snares, rooted in the Cretan tales where Theseus relied on Ariadne's thread to escape, remind that no labyrinth is without exit, but only if the mind holds. Hermes claws at the fog, his will fraying like the oath he seeks to reinforce. The unseen war claiming its first true divine casualty. But as the mirrors multiply, his fractured gaze reflecting 1,000 paths leading to the same devouring end. The question that spirals in the disorienting hum is, can the swift-footed god reclaim his essence before the twisted realities consume him whole, or will his madness become the key that unlocks Cronus's whispers to the ears of the free? The labyrinth's mirrors shatter in a cascade of illusory shards, as Hermes' will holds just long enough for a sliver of true path to emerge. But you do not linger with the trapped messenger. The unseen war demands escalation, and Hecate, sensing the snare's tightening grip on her ally, turns her gaze downward once more. The key in her hand, now a fusion of stolen moonlight, Stygian vow, and the loophole's precise etchings, grows colder, urging her onward. She steps from the crossroads, misty fringes, not toward the fractured skies or the divided throne, but into the ultimate descent. The path to the pit, the forbidden trail leading straight to her enemy's prison. This is no hasty plunge. It is a deliberate walk, a river crossing of the soul, where every step is a threshold into deeper darkness. You walk with her, the air shifting from the subtle chill of liminal spaces to a profound, bone-deep pressure, as if the world itself is compressing around you to keep what lies below hidden. The path begins at the underworld's outer edges, beyond Persephone's wavering halls, where the fields of asphodel give way to jagged chasms that swallow light whole. Hecate's torches burn steadily, their white flames revealing not the way forward, but the voids at its sides hollows where lesser shades whimper, their forms dissolving into the ether like smoke from unlit incense. This descent is the archetype of the underworld guide's trial, a motif etched into Greek mythology from Orpheus's lyre-strung journey to rescue Eurydice to the catabasis of Heracles to drag Cerberus into the light. But Hecate's path is older, untrodden by heroes or Olympian envoys, a trail woven from the primordial oaths that bound the Titans. Local legends from the oracle at Taenarun, the southernmost cape of the Peloponnese, where a cave was believed to lead directly to Hades, recount how Spartan warriors in the 5th century BCE performed rituals there before battle, offering black rams and honeycakes to appease the chthonic powers. That historical site, a real portal in the minds of ancient Spartans, served as a threshold guardian's rite, invoking safe passage through death's domena, bargain Hecate. Now embodies alone, her torches the only light against the encroaching eclipse of Cronus's will. Deeper you go, the path narrowing to a ledge over an abyss that defies measurement. Its walls slick with a cold sweat of stone, the air heavy with the scent of damp, cedar, and the faint metallic temps of iron chains far below. The sonic texture builds slowly, a low rumble like the earth's distant heartbeat, punctuated by the anomalous drip of water that echoes not from above but from the future, as if time itself leaks through the seams. Hecate moves with methodical calm, her steps measured, each one a ritual in itself, soft incantation under her breath. A proverb seeded from the library's depths. In the belly of the void, light finds its edge. This is her descent into the heart of the war, a psychological tension coiling tighter with every stride. For to confront Cronus is to face not just a titan, but the antithesis of her domain. She is the goddess of choices, of branching paths. He is the singular end, the devouring point where all roads converge into nothingness. The key serves as her guide now, its obsidian surface warming faintly in her palm, the the Stygian veins pulsing like veins in living flesh. This is its bizarre quirk, a detail known only to the chthonic inner circle. The key does not unlock doors. It remembers them, its teeth shifting to match not just physical locks, but conceptual ones, drawing from the collective memory of sealed thresholds. To hold it during this walk is to feel the weight of every oath ever sworn upon it, the blood price of Achilles' heel, the traded silence of the Eleusinian initiates, the cursed relics of forgotten deities. A taboo clings to such artifacts. Overuse invites inversion. Where the key might seal the wielder away instead of their foe, a psychological labyrinth of self-doubt. Hecate feels it tugging at her edges. Visions flickering at the periphery, her own crossroads collapsing under Cronus's gaze. Medea's tower crumbling into the sea, Hermes' mirrors reflecting her face as a shade. Yet she presses on, her torches casting elongated shadows that writhe like hounds at her heels. Warding off the sorrow wraths that slink in the periphery, their memory blades glinting with the regrets of devoured ages. The path steepens, becoming a spiral staircase carved from the bedrock of the world, each step descending past layers of mythic history. First the bones of the Gigantomachy, where earthborn giants warred against the Olympians. Then the petrified forms of elder deities, their stone eyes, following your passage with silent judgment. Star omens play across the walls and bioluminescent fungi, faint eclipses glowing like trapped prophecies, callbacks to the triple moon's revelation. Hecate pauses at a landing where a small alcove holds an ancient inscription, a stone-cut epigraph from the Titan era. Oaths live in the cut. When stars shift, grief shifts with them. She traces it with a finger, the stone warm under her touch. A confessional interlude slipping into her steady narration. I walked these shadows once for a lost queen. But this time, the lost one is the world itself. The words ground her, reaffirming her role as oracle seer. To the cosmos, even as the pressure mounts. The air now so thick it presses on your lungs, the rumble below resolving into the grind of adamantine links, ironine, an eternal strain. Further down, the path opens into a vast cavern, the antechamber to Tartarus proper, where the air turns frigid. Crystals of frost forming on the walls despite the earth's core heat. Here, the Titan's presence is palpable, a psychic weight like standing beneath a collapsing sky. Sorrow wraths mass at the edges, their forms more substantial now. Drawn by the proximity to their master shades of swallowed children, heroes unmade, deities reduced to echoes, they do not attack. They circle, whispering temptations of neutrality, sacred bargains that promise escape from the war's cost. Hecate ignores them, focusing on the final threshold, a massive gate of woven shadows and solidified night. Its surface etched with the primordial oath's runes, now fraying at the edges like threadbare cloth. The key responds, humming in harmony with the gate's decay, ready to turn. She approaches, torches held high, light revealing the gate's anomalous function. It does not bar entry, but tests intent. Its shadows coiling to probe the walker's soul, seeking weakness to exploit. The psychological intrigue peaks here, the gate's tendrils brushing her mind visions of failure. Persephone choosing the pomegranate's erasure, Hermes lost forever in his mirrors, Zeus's throne dissolving into sand. The blood price of this crossing is clarity. To pass, one must confront the void without flinching, a traded memory for unyielding purpose. Hecate stands firm, inserting the key into the lock's heart, the teeth aligning with a resonant click that echoes like a breaking oath. The gate groans open, revealing the pit's maw yawning blackness where time loops and devours. The descent's final steps await, the goddess walking the path to her enemy's prison. The war's epic scope narrowing to this intimate confrontation. But as the gate swings wide, releasing a gust of cold, whispering wind that carries the faint, grinding cadence of chains, the question that coils in the cavern's deepening shadows is, what hidden guardian or final twist has Cronus placed at the pit's threshold to turn this descent into her own unraveling? The gate's groan fades into the pit's oppressive silence as Hecate crosses the final threshold. The key slipping from the lock with a soft, resonant click that echoes like a vow renewed in reverse. You descend with her into Tartarus's heart, the path now a sheer drop into absolute void navigated, not by sight or step, but by the goddess's unerring will. Metaphysical river crossing where the current is pure entropy pulling at the edges of your essence like frayed threads. The torches in her hands dim to pinpricks, their white light struggling against the blackness that is not mere absence, but a devouring presence, hungry for form and memory. This is the source of the creeping dread that is threaded through every crossroads, every frayed oath, every sorrow wraith's whisper, since the blighted offering at the beginning. The air, if it can be called, that presses in with the weight of eons. Cold stone sweating beads of condensed time that evaporate into nothingness upon touch, leaving a faint, anomalous residue of salt on the skin, as if the void itself weeps for what it consumes. Deeper still, the descent levels into a vast chamber that defies scale. A cavern where walls curve into infinity, etched with the petrified screams of primordial chaos. The sonic texture here is a constant low thrum, the grind of adamantine chains, shifting millimeter by millimeter, iron in iron, in eternal, futile resistance. Punctuated by the distant drip of the Styx's echo, a reminder of sacred bargains long broken. Hecate moves forward, her form a silhouette of resolve amid the gloom, the key clutched like a talisman against the psychological tension that coils tighter with every breath. This confrontation is the war's pivot, the moment where the unseen becomes seen, the shadow given face. You feel it building, a pressure not just physical but existential. As if the fabric of reality thins to reveal the loom beneath, threads of fate weaving, strained to snapping. At the chamber's core, chained to a monolith of blackened obsidian that pulses like a diseased heart, you behold him, the face of the devouring king. Cronus is no colossal tyrant roaring defiance, as the Olympian epics might paint for their heroes to slay, is a form of restrained enormity, his body a landscape of stone and shadow. Limbs splayed in cruciform agony against the chains that bind him to his eternal loop. His skin is etched with the scars of time fissures like canyons worn by rivers of ages, glowing faintly with the inner fire of swallowed stars. But it is his face that grips you, a visage of cold, imperial intellect, eyes like twin eclipses, black voids rimmed with the fading light of devoured worlds. His beard flows not as hair but as tendrils of night, coiling lazily, and his crown a circlet of curved sickle blades hangs askew, the very artifact that castrated Uranus and birthed the Titan Age. This is the source, the epicenter of the dread, a being who sees not the present but the inevitable end of all things. His gaze a star omen of unmaking. Hecate halts paces away, her torches flaring to full brilliance, illuminating the chamber in stark contrasts of white on black. The light reveals the bizarre quirk of Cronus as a deity. His chains are not mere metal, but symbiotic extensions of his will. Adamantine links that feed on his rage, growing stronger with each futile strain, yet allowing him those infinitesimal seams to whisper through. This anomalous function, a cursed relic forged by the Cyclopes at Zeus's command, carries a profound taboo. To gaze too long at the links invites a blood price of temporal vertigo, where the viewer feels their life looping in microcycles, seconds, stretching into subjective eternities. Local legends from the volcanic forges of Lemnos, where Hephaestus's workshops were said to echo with the clang of divine smithing since the Bronze Age, recount how the chains were tempered in the blood of primordial monsters, blending ancient mysteries with the historical craft of early Greek metallurgy. Those tales, passed among the island's artisans who revered the lame god, emphasized the artifact's dual nature, unbreakable yet alive, a guardian that could turn on its keepers if the balance tipped. Cronus stirs, his eclipse eyes fixing on Hecate with a recognition that chills deeper than the void. His voice emerges not as thunder, but as a resonant hum, vibrating through the stone like the earth's own confession. Daughter of the night paths, you come to mend what I have undone. But see, the oath was a cage for us both. It is a sacred bargain inverted, his words coiling like the labyrinth's illusions, probing for doubt. He does not rage. He reasons his logic a devouring calm, painting visions in the air between you. Olympus crumbling not in war but in irrelevance. Deities fading into the myths they once imposed, mortals freed from heroic quests to dissolve into peaceful oblivion. The psychological intrigue surges. Hecate feels the pull, the key in her hand growing heavy as if absorbing the Titan's entropy, its Stygian veins darkening. A first-person interlude slips from her lips, soft amid the thrum. I have guided queens through darker nights than this. Yet your gaze unravels the guide herself. She advances, torches sweeping to reveal the chain's seams, the very cracks she glimpsed in the library's loom. The confrontation builds an epic cadence. Hecate invokes a hymnal fragment, her voice steady against his hum. Oaths live in the cut. When stars shift, grief shifts with them, a callback to the primordial vow, now fraying under his eclipse stare. He counters with a proverb of his own, etched into the monolith behind him. In the belly of time, all returns to seed. The air warps, sorrow wraiths, materializing at the chamber's edges. Their memory blades glinting with the regrets of his swallowed children Zeus as an infant, wriggling back into non-being. The goddess raises the key, its teeth aligning with a seam in the central chain, the loophole's pattern glowing faintly. But Cronus's face twists in a semblance of a smile, his tendril beard lashing out not to strike, but to brush her torches, dimming them to embers. The light reveals a final twist, the chain's pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, a living relic that draws strength from intruders, feeding on the intent to bind. Hecate inserts the key, turning it with deliberate slowness, the lock resisting like a living thing. A star omen flickers overhead, an illusory eclipse in the cavern's sky, blotting her light further. The blood price manifests. A traded memory surges through her. Visions of her own ancient defeats, crossroads where she failed to guide, now amplified into doubt. The chamber trembles, the grind of chains intensifying to a roar, Aranan clashing, like the onset of cosmic war. Cronus's eyes narrow, the devouring king's face a mask of patient malice, his will pushing back against the key's turn. The unseen war reaches its intimate zenith here, goddess against titan, choice against consumption. The fate of realms hanging on this single straining pivot. Sensory creep heightens, the stone sweats colder. The air thickens with the scent of salt incense and rusting oaths, whispers overlapping into a cacophony of unmade histories. The key grinds halfway, a spark of Stygian light flaring, but Cronus's hum deepens, warping the space around the monolith into a subtle labyrinth of temporal folds. Hecate's torches sputter, her form silhouetted against the void, resolve etched in every line. But as the eclipse deepens and the chains creak toward, breaking or mending the question that reverberates. Through the throbbing darkness is, will the key seal the loophole before the devouring king's gaze unravels her purpose, turning the confrontation into the first true unraveling of the goddess herself. The key's half-turn sends a tremor through the monolith, obsidian pulsing brighter as Stygian light wars with the encroaching eclipse in Cronus's eyes. But the confrontation does not shatter into chaos. Instead, it deepens, the chamber's thrum resolving into a deliberate rhythm, like the slow tolling of temple bells in a forgotten rite. Hecate holds her ground, the torches steadying to a focused glow that carves the titan's form from the void, revealing the intricate web of chains not as random bindings, but as a deliberate tapestry which linked a thread of the primordial oath, woven with the fates of swallowed worlds. You stand with her, the pressure of the pit coiling around your senses, the air now laced with the sharp bite of salt incense from unburnt offerings, a sensory creep that clings to the skin like the sweat of stone under strain. This is the war's core, where epic scope narrows to the intimate clash of wills. It's the goddess of infinite paths against the king of singular endings, their essences locked in a silent bargain that could remake or unmake the cosmos. Modulus's hum modulates, no longer a mere vibration but a voice laced with ancient cadence, drawing from the depths of his looped torment. You forge keys from shadows and rivers, daughter of the night, but every lock has its maker. His eclipse eyes narrow, pulling at the psychological tension like a tide dragging at the shore, forcing Hecate to confront not just his form but the philosophy etched into his being. He is the ultimate fate weaver, inverted a deity whose quirk lies in his paradoxical temperament. The devouring king does not rage blindly but philosophizes, his hunger viewing consumption as mercy, a return to the perfect. This bizarre trait, whispered in chthonic lore as the sickle's mercy, carries an anomalous function for his relics, artifacts, like his crown, which does not crown but harvests, drawing the essence of the worthy into his fold rather than destroying outright. To face it is to risk the taboo of intellectual seduction, a blood price where one's convictions erode, not through force, but through the seductive logic of inevitability, turning guardians into converts. Hecate counters without flinching, her voice a calm anchor amid the rising hum. She circles the monolith slowly, torches sweeping to illuminate the seams, the key still embedded halfway, its teeth straining against the chain's resistance. The oath was mercy for you, old one, eternity in a moment, spared the void's full embrace. Unmake it, and you unmake yourself. Her words invoke the historical core of the Titanomachi, the great war that reshaped the world in the late Bronze Age. When Mycenaean warriors on the Greek mainland sang of the Olympians' victory in their epic cycles, blending myth with the real upheavals of palace collapses and migrations, local legends from the ruins of Tyrans and Mycenae were massive. Cyclopean walls still stand as echoes of that era recount how bards performed rituals at hearth fires, offering libations of unmixed wine to honor the new gods who overthrew the devouring fathers, assuring the harvest's renewal over endless night. Those tales, rooted in the ancient mysteries of a transitioning world, framed Cronus not as monster but as outdated sovereign, his fall a necessary threshold for heroic ages to bloom. The Titan's tendril beard lashes subtly, not in attack, but to stir the air, manifesting spectral visions around the chamber-cursed relics of his reign, materializing as holograms of light and shadow. You see the golden age unspooling, fields of wheat that never withered, mortals unburdened by ambition or death, rivers flowing with nectar under unblinking stars. But the visions twist, revealing the underbelly, the paranoia that led to his devouring. Children swallowed not from malice but from a fate weaver's dread of prophecy. The oracle's warning of overthrow echoing in his eclipse gaze. See the flaw in their light, he intones, his voice weaving a sacred bargain tailored to Hecate's domain. Olympus divides, crossroads multiply into chaos. Join the return, and paths become one eternal, undivided. The offer hangs, psychological intrigue that tugs at her core, the key flickering as if tempted to withdraw. Sorrow wraths edge closer, their forms more defined here, whispering callbacks to earlier omens, the seer's scream. The fading star, the blighted offering, now amplified into a chorus of what could be undone. Hecate pauses, her free hand tracing a sigil in the air, labyrinthine pattern of intersecting lines. The motif of her crossroads etched in glowing ether. She performs a ritual of reaffirmation, dipping a finger into the key's Stygian veins and anointing her torches, the liquid hissing as it touches the flame. This act, a taboo among Thronic rites, invokes the blood price of clarity. A traded memory surges through her. Not of defeat, but of triumph, the guidance of Demeter through endless night to find Persephone, a journey that birthed the seasons themselves. Your mercy is stagnation, she replies, her tone methodical, yet laced with epic resolve. Mine is choice even in shadow. The torches blaze anew, light piercing the visions, shattering the holograms into motes that dissolve like incense ash. The chamber responds, the monolith cracking faintly along the seam. A sonic texture of grinding stone mingling with the chain's iron protest, building suspense like the swell before a storm. Cronus's form strains, the chains tightening in response to the key's pressure, his crown's sickle blades glinting with harvested light from the fading visions. He reveals a final layer of his quirk. The eclipse eyes do not just devour, they reflect, mirroring the viewer's deepest doubt back amplified. In Hecate's gaze, you glimpse her own crossroads, fracturing Medusa's towers succumbing. Hermes lost in eternal loops, Persephone choosing erasure over alliance, Zeus's throne a pile of dust. The psychological tension peaks. A first-person confessional threading through her steady narration. I have walked paths where light failed, but this void, it whispers of paths without end, without me. Yet she twists the key further, a quarter turn now, Stygian light flaring brighter, sealing the loophole inch by inch. The Titan's hum fractures into a low growl. The devouring king's patience cracking, sorrow wraths, lunging forward only to recoil from the expanding glow. The epic cadence builds, motifs braiding tight. The river sticks his vow, echoing in the key's veins. The triple moon's exposure lingering in the air's charged hum, star omens flickering across the monolith like dying embers. Deities and their heroic progeny hang in this balance. The unseen war's fate hinging on the goddess's unyielding turn. Sensory details sharpen the cold sweat of stone, turning to rivulets that carve paths down the walls. The damp cedar scent intensifying with the salt of unwept tears, whispers overlapping into a hymnal dirge of unmade oaths. Cronus's eyes widen, the eclipse deepening, but a seam in the central chain begins to mend, glowing with the primordial pact's renewed thread. The confrontation teeters. Hecate's form a bastion of light amid the void, her will the counter to his entropy. But as the key nears its final quarter, the monolith pulses with a sudden violent surge. Cronus's crown flaring with sickle light that casts the chamber in blood-red hues. And the question that erupts from the fracturing hum is, what latent power has the Titan hidden in his mercy's core to reverse the mending and drag the goddess into his eternal loop? Hecate's ascent from Tartarus unfolds not as a triumphant climb, but a measured withdrawal. The key in her hand cooling to a steady warmth that pulses like a heartbeat reclaimed from the void. You rise with her, the path broadening from the pits, crushing narrowness to the familiar ledges of the underworld's outer reaches, where the air lightens, carrying faint echoes of asphodel's monotonous sighs. The gate seals behind you with a final, resonant thud, its shadows knitting closed like a wound scarred over. But the subtle fracture Cronus sowed lingers in the ether's psychic afterimage. A faint seam in the renewed oath that whispers of future eclipses. The goddess's torches burn brighter now, their white light sweeping away the last tendrils of sorrow, Ariths, illuminating the way upward with revelations of restored order. Chasms that once gaped with unmaking, now bridged by threads of fate, the Styx's current flowing smoother, less tainted by entropy's drag. This is the war's fragile denouement, where victory tastes of salt and cedar. A sensory creep of damp stone yielding to the crisp mist of liminal spaces. The sonic texture shifting from grinding chains to the distant rustle of asphodel winds. Emerging into Persephone's divided halls, Hecate finds the queen already changed. The illusory pomegranate shattered at her feet like a broken vow, its spectral seeds dissolving into harmless dust. The throne room, once heavy with blight, breathes anew, Elysian fields beyond the obsidian arches greening at the edges, golden grasses unfurling from seed in a motif of renewal echoing the goddess's own domain. Persephone rises from her seat, her form balanced once more spring green, dominant over winter's pallor, her eyes reflecting the triple moon's lingering triune glow. The pit quiets, she says, her voice a melody of resolved tension, the psychological intrigue of her choice, now a solidified alliance. Hades stands beside her, bident lowered, Cerberus at the gates whining in harmonious triple notes. The hounds' heads aligned once more as threshold guardians. The queen's decision, catalyzed by the oaths mending far below, carries its blood price. A deeper tether to the Olympian light, her underworld guide roll expanded to include wards against future unmakings. Sacred bargains renewed in rituals of pomegranate and torchlight. Local legends from the Eleusinian mysteries where initiates drank kykeon brews too, glimpse the afterlife cycles since the archaic period. Will one day weave this moment into their dramas? Persephone stand as the pivot that saved the harvest from eternal night, blending ancient mysteries with the historical agrarian rites that sustained Attic communities through famine and war. Hecate nods, sharing a silent communion with the queen. Visions passing between them, the Tirat Sunyan evaporating under the restored oath's influence. Its silver drop hissing into vapor that scatters across the Aegean like forgotten omens. Medea's tower in Colchis stands firm, cauldron sealed with wards of triple moonlight, the witch's marked skin fading to a protective sheen rather than a curse. The goddess extends the key briefly, its runes glowing in Persephone's palm a token of unity. Its quirky function now attuned to underworld thresholds, allowing the queen to summon crossroads light in times of need. The fracture waits, Hecate warns, her tone methodical. A first-person note threading through, I sealed the seam. But time remembers its own cuts. The hall's air clears. The damp cedar scent yielding to the sweet rot of blooming asphodel. Temple bells tolling in distant harmony above, a callback to the seer's scream now resolved into prophetic peace. The ripple ascends further, threading through the veils to Olympus, where Zeus feels the shift like a storm breaking without rain. His throne rigid, and talons sharp under the fraying, softens to warm clouds once more. The eagle arm rests, easing their grip. The metallic temps fades from the ether, ambrosia flowing sweeter. The murals of the Titanomachi gleaming anew as if freshly painted. The king of gods rises, thunderbolt humming with restored fury, his scepter a beacon against the subtle poison's retreat. The other deities stir from their unease, Athena's owl hoots approval. Poseidon's trident stills the seas below, Ares's grin tempers to wary respect. No council convenes. The renewal is felt in the bones of their realm, a sacred bargain reaffirmed without words. Yet Zeus senses the fracture to a faint instability in the skies. Summer squalls regaining their bite but carrying an undercurrent of eclipse shadow. He performs his private ritual anew, sigils tracing brighter in the cedar bowl. The epigraph oaths live in the cut etched deeper into his mind, a proverb now laced with Hecate's victory. Historical echoes resonate, the oracle at Dodana's oaks rustling with winds that foretell stability, much as they did for the Mycenaean kings who rebuilt after the Titan Age's fall. Their auguries guiding the heroic epics that followed. Hermes emerges from his labyrinth last, the unlit path straightening under the oath's mending, mirrors shattering into harmless dust that reforms as swift ribbons of twilight. The trickster god shakes off the temporal vertigo, his caduceus serpents coiling in renewed harmony. The staff's anomalous function soothing the chaos at once amplified. He streaks to Olympus, delivering not panic but confirmation. The devouring king's grasp broken, the whispers silenced. The messenger's quirky sandals tread concepts on paths of rumor, lines of fate and warped, his winged helmet gleaming. But in his eyes lingers the blood price of the snare, a subtle hesitation in his speed. A traded memory of looped doubts that will temper his thievery with caution, turning the god of transitions into a more vigilant threshold guardian. Across the mortal world, the renewal manifests in quiet miracles. The blighted offering at the crossroads blooms anew. Hearth fires flaring brighter, stars reappearing in the night sky like jewels reset in a crown. Heroes in their nascent forms, young warriors and Spartan agogis, or Athenian academies dream of quests unbroken. Their resolves fortified against sorrow's edge. The unseen war recedes, shadows retreating to the cracks they came from. The world's thresholds realigning into branching possibilities rather than converging voids. Hecate returns to her domain, the forge of stolen moonlight quiet. The key placed on an altar of moth wings and secrets, its power absorbed into the tapestry of her realm. Medea resumes her rites in Colchis, Persephone's fields above greening with spring's promise, the cosmic weave mended for now. Yet the subtle fracture pulses faintly. A seed of Cronus's mercy, buried in the oath's core potential for the next alignment, when stars shift and grief stirs anew. The epic scope breathes, motifs resolving into harmony, river crossings bridged, star omens cleared, sacred bargains honored without erasure. Sensory details settled the ozone of passing storms, the rustle of restored winds, the hum of oaths living in their cuts. The goddess stands at a central crossroads, torches aloft, her form a silhouette of enduring mystery. The psychological tension easing into watchful calm, but as the realms stabilize and the deities turn to their eternal vanities, the question that lingers in the quieting ether, like a whisper from the pit's sealed depths, is, when the next eclipse casts its shadow, will the fracture bloom into a new devouring, or has Hecate's key forged a peace enduring beyond the ages? The fragile peace settles over the realms like a veil of autumn mist, thin and deceptive, as Hecate lingers at her central crossroads. The keys altar humming faintly with absorbed echoes of the pit. Days bleed into nights without the creeping dread, the world's thresholds humming with restored vitality. Offerings at hearth crossings ignite without blight. Seer's visions clear of eclipsed shadows, the wind-dark sea lapping at shores unwarped by reversed tides. You walk the paths with her once more, not in descent but in quiet guardianship. The air crisp with the scent of blooming nightshade and cedar smoke from distant rituals, a sensory anchor to the mended weave. The goddess's torches burn low now, their white light a subtle ward rather than a blazing confrontation, illuminating the branching roads that stretch into infinity paths of mortal ambition. Divine vanities, heroic quests yet unborn. motifs resolving into enduring patterns. The Styx's current, a steady flow, not a dragging entropy. Star omens twinkling without devouring intent. Sacred bargains whispered in temples from Delphi to Dodona, their oaths living sharp in the cut of stone and vow. In the mortal world, the renewal manifests as subtle miracles woven into daily rhythms. At the original crossroads, where the blighted offering first signaled the unraveling, a simple farmer kneels to pour libations of barley and honey. His hands steady the earth, responding with a soft bloom of wild thyme that scents the air like forgotten incense. No dust claims his gift. Instead it nourishes, a callback to the primordial pact, now fortified against unmaking. Villages along the Peloponnesian routes, where Spartan youths train in agoges under the watchful eyes of local deities, feel the shift in their bones. Dreams of heroic labors sharpen. Resolves against sorrow's whisper hardening like bronze in the forge. Local legends passed in the evening fires of Messene or Tegea began to evolve tales of a torchbearer queen who walked the pit's depths to mend the world's frayed edges. Blending the historical core of Mycenaean oral traditions with the ancient mysteries of chthonic rites, fishermen on the Aegean Isles, mending nets by lamplight, recount omens of triple moons guiding safe harbors, their rituals invoking Hecate's name alongside Poseidon's, a sacred bargain for bountiful catches that ensures the trade routes hum with life anew. Olympus basks in gilded complacence, the eternal light untainted, ambrosia flowing in rivers that taste of unchallenged sovereignty. Zeus reclines on his throne, now a bed of untroubled clouds, his thunderbolt crackling with idle power as he watches the mortal heroes below young. Theseus-like figures navigating labyrinths of their own making, unshadowed by Titan whispers. The king of gods senses the piece's fragility, a faint itch in the ether like the prelude to a distant storm, but he dismisses it with a sovereign's vanity convening feasts where lyres play in major keys. Nectar toasts raised to the eternal order. Athena sharpens her spear in the halls of wisdom, her owl perched with unblinking clarity. Artemis hunts the moonlit wilds, her arrows true against beasts untouched by entropy's blight. Yet Hermes, forever the threshold guardian, treads his paths with a newfound caution, his caduceus serpents coiling tighter around the staff. Their anomalous harmony, a reminder of the labyrinth's cost. He delivers messages swifter than before, but in quiet moments. A confessional whisper escapes him to the winds. Speed avails little when the road remembers its twists. The trickster's blood price lingers a subtle warp in his conceptual sandals. Paths of rumor occasionally looping like echoes of the snare, turning his thievery into lessons in vigilance. Deeper in the chthonic folds, Persephone's divided kingdom thrives in balanced duality. The Elysian fields burst with asphodel in full bloom, shades of honored heroes wandering groves where lyres play forgotten epics, their repose unthreatened by the pit's subdued hum. The queen walks her halls with Hades at her side, the bident and pomegranate entwined in a motif of enduring pact, Cerberus's heads barking in triple guardianship at the gates. Her choice has woven her closer to the light. Her spring renewals above, carrying wards against future fractures fields in Attica greening earlier. Eleusinian initiates glimpsing, not voids but cycles unbroken in their Caesian visions. The historical resonance echoes in the Thesmophoria festivals where women of Athens and beyond bury piglets and seeds in sacred pits to honor her descent and return. Rituals that now pulse with an undercurrent of Hecate's light, ensuring fertility against the subtle seed Cronus sowed. Medea, in her Chalcian tower, seals the cauldron with layers of moon-warded incantations. Her marked skin a talisman rather than torment, brewing elixirs that heal rather than reverse. Her exile transformed into a solitary oracle sears vigil over eastern thresholds. Hecate herself patrols the unseen edges, her realm a web of vigilant crossroads where choices branch freely once more. The forge of stolen moonlight idols, its black pool still and reflective. The liquid void now a mirror for scrying rather than crafting. The key rests on its altar. Its obsidian surface, etched with the confrontation's runes, a master relic attuned to cosmic seams. Its quirky function evolving. It no longer just remembers locks but anticipates fractures, teeth shifting in premonition of shifts in the stars. She feels the subtle fracture's pulse, a faint throb like a vein under skin, Cronus's final seed buried deep in the oath's mended core. It does not stir now, dormant under the piece's weight, but in quiet meditations. Visions flicker. An eclipse where the triple moon aligns with a rogue star, grief shifting not away but inward, whispers from the pit coiling anew. The psychological tension simmers low, a watchful undercurrent the goddess's essence forever tinged with the Styx's entropy. Her paths carrying a river's inexorable pull, traded memories of the descent sharpening her resolve into something eternal. The epic scope breathes in this interlude, motifs harmonizing into a tapestry of guarded renewal, river crossings flowing toward possibility, star omens guiding without devouring, sacred bargains etched in stone and soul. Sensory details ground the vigil, the rustle of moth wings in the forge, the ozone temps of warded air, the hum of oaths resonating like distant bells in sync. Deities revel, mortals toil and dream, heroes rise unshadowed. The worlds we've holden against the void's patient hunger. Hecate stands sentinel, torches a constant flame. Her form, the eternal crossroads, where light meets shadow, choice defies consumption. Yet as seasons turn, and the moon waxes toward its next triune whisper, the fracture's seed stirs faintly, a subtle ripple in the ether, like the first crack in parched earth. The peace endures, but the unseen war's embers glow, waiting for alignment. But as Hecate traces a sigil in the mist, invoking the epigraph one final time, oaths live in the cut. When stars shift, grief shifts with them. The question that fades into the harmonious hum is, in the cycle of ages, will the goddess's key turn once more to mend the bloom of new unraveling? Or has the devouring king's mercy forged a legacy that outlasts even the stars themselves? As the cycles of moon and tide weave onward, the subtle fracture's pulse becomes a rhythm Hecate knows intimately. Like the steady drip of the Styx echoing through her crossroads veins, months turn to seasons without overt rupture. The world's thresholds holding firm under her vigilant gaze. But the piece is a living thing, resilient yet scarred, its surface calm, belying the undercurrents of potential bloom. You traverse the paths with her in this extended vigil, not as active hunter, but as quiet observer. The air now laced with the full bouquet of renewal, night-blooming jasmine mingling with the earthy temps of rain-soaked cedar, a sensory tapestry that grounds the ethereal and the tangible. Her torches, ever-present companions, flicker with a softer intensity, their white light tracing the edges of possibilities rather than banishing voids, illuminating hearths where mortals gather in ritual circles, whispering invocations to the goddess of the liminal. This is the war's lingering epilogue, where motifs of restoration deepen into a new archetype, the eternal mending. Oaths not just cut, but continually woven, star omens serving as guides rather than harbingers of devouring. In the mortal realms, the fracture's dormancy fosters a renaissance of subtle wonders. Threads of the renewed pact threading through daily existence like hidden rivers. At the Oracle of Delphi, where the Pythia's vapors rise from sacred fissures in the earth, visions flow clearer. Unclouded by Titan whispers prophecies of heroic ascents for young warriors from Thebes or Corinth, their quests for golden artifacts or monstrous slayers now infused with Hecate's warding light. Local legends evolve in the agora's murmurs, blending the historical core of the 8th century BCE sanctuary, rebuilt after earthquakes that mirrored cosmic upheavals, with tales of a key warden who descended to silence the old king's hunger. Pilgrims offer laurel wreaths and black yews at the crossroads altars, their rituals a sacred bargain for safe travels. Ensuring trade caravans from Ionia to the Black Seaports hum with spices and silks, economies thriving under the stability of unfrayed fates. Fisherwomen on Lesbos, casting nets under triple moon nights, pole halls rich with silver-scaled fish, their songs invoking Persephone's renewal alongside Hecate's paths, a motif of abundance that counters the blighted offerings of yore. Olympus, in its lofty detachment, interprets the piece as divine affirmation, the deities weaving it into their timeless vanities with elaborate feasts and oracular games. Zeus, ever the sovereign architect, commissions new murals in his halls, scenes of Hecate's descent rendered in celestial gold. Her torches clashing with Cronus's eclipse eyes, a heroic epic recast for the pantheon's glory. His thunderbolt cracks the skies in celebratory displays. Storms that water the earth without the fraying mist of before, but in private, atop Ida's peaks where he was once hidden as an infant. He traces sigils in the clouds. The epigraph oaths live in the kata mantra against the faint itch of instability. Athena, patron of strategy, forges alliances with mortal strategoi in Athens. Her owl carrying whispers of unshadowed wisdom to academies where philosophers debate the nature of time not as devouring but as cyclical ally. Poseidon stirs the seas to rhythmic swells, his trident ensuring voyages like the Argonaut's echo in safer currents. While Ares tempers his bloodlust into disciplined wars, battles where heroes clash without the entropy of reversed wounds. Hermes, the swift bridge, regains his full measure, his Teleria sandals treading rumor paths with renewed audacity. Though a quirky hesitation lingers a momentary pause at conceptual thresholds, turning pranks into profound insights, his caduceus, a symbol of balanced transitions. Beneath the divided earth, Persephone's kingdom pulses with harmonious duality. The fractures seed dormant, like a winter bulb awaiting spring's call. Elysium's fields expand. Asphodel meadows where shades of Achilles and Odysseus reenact glories in eternal tournaments, their lances unblunted by sorrow's blades. The queen, her pomegranate pact deepened by alliance, ventures more freely to the surface during her half-year above, her presence greening the Attic plains earlier each cycle. Thesmophoria festivals swelling with initiates, who glimpse not just renewal but fortified cycles in their torchlit processions. Hades guards the deeper halls with unyielding vigilance, his bide in a ward against subtle seepages. Cerberus's triple heads attuned to the pit's subdued hum, barking warnings that echo as protective hymns. The blood price of Persephone's choice manifests as a richer duality, her spring light carrying chthonic depth, ensuring harvests that feed not just bodies but souls. Rituals in Eleusis blending Demeter's grief with Hecate's guidance, historical mysteries from the Mycenaean sea drills, evolving into communal bonds unbreakable by entropy. Medea, sentinel of the East, transforms her Chalcian exile into a nexus of empowered lore. Her tower a beacon for wandering seers and herbalists seeking elixirs against temporal ills. The cauldron sealed and repurposed, brews potions that mend rather than reverse drafts of wolfsbane and moonlight for warriors facing inner labyrinths. Her marked skin a living talisman that glows under star omens, warding eastern thresholds from rogue shadows. She communes with Hecate through mirrors etched with triple sigils, visions of the fracture shared in confessional whispers. The seed sleeps, late, but dreams of harvest. Her rituals, rooted in Chalcian traditions of sun god invocations since the Bronze Age, now incorporate Greek crossroads motifs, sacred bargains that trade personal scars for communal strength, ensuring the Phasis River flows as a bridge rather than a barrier. Hecate, architect of this guarded harmony, deepens her domain's weave, the crossroads expanding into a vast vigilant web where every intersection pulses with the key's premonitory hum. The forge of stolen moonlight stirs occasionally, crafting minor relics compasses of paradox for lost heroes. Shields from forgotten regrets for beleaguered queens not for war, but for the subtle maintenances of peace. The key, enshrined yet ever ready, shifts its teeth in quiet anticipation, absorbing faint ripples from the fracture like a sponge drawing moisture from stone. She feels the seed as subtle stirrings most acutely during alignments, a rogue eclipse brushing the triple moon. Grief shifting not into chaos but into introspective whispers. Callbacks to the seer's scream, now echoes of cautionary wisdom. The psychological tension evolves into a profound watchfulness, her essence, a fusion of light and Styx's, flow paths, tinged with entropy, yet branching freer. Traded memories of the descent forging her into the ultimate oracle, seer guiding not just mortals but the cosmos itself through potential unmakings. The epic scope settles into this eternal interlude, motifs crystallized, river crossings as conduits of choice, star omens as lanterns against the dark, sacred bargains as living threads in the weave. Sensory immersion lingers the jasmine's night perfume, yielding to dawn's ozone. The rustle of winds carrying belltones in sync, the hum of oaths resonating like a heartbeat in the earth's core. Deities endure in their flawed grandeur, mortals thrive in heroic sparks. The fractures seed a dormant challenge rather than imminent doom. Hecate walks a central path, torches a dual flame of memory and foresight. Her form, the enduring silhouette where shadow meets possibility, consumption yielding to infinite roads. Yet as another season crests, and the stars align in a whisper of potential shift, the fracture's pulse quickens ever so slightly, a seed cracking its shell in the depths. The peace holds, a legacy of mended oaths and vigilant light, but the unseen war's embers flicker with patient promise. But as Hecate raises her torches to the emerging dawn, the final epigraph etching the air in the belly of time, all returns to seed. But seeds may yet choose their soil. The question that dissolves into the harmonious expanse is, in the grand cycle of devouring and renewal, will the goddess's crossroads forever outpace the titan's mercy? Or does the fracture's bloom herald an age where even time learns to branch? The grand cycle turns, inexorably seasons, folding into one another like pages in an endless scroll in Hecate's crossroads. Adapt to the rhythm of this prolonged harmony, their intersections now alive. With the subtle vibrations of choices made and fates affirmed, years pass and the mortal measured decades in the divine, without the fracture seed erupting into full bloom. Its pulse a distant murmur like the Styx's undercurrent far from its roaring banks. You wander the expanding web with her. The goddesses form a constant amid flux, her torches evolving into beacons that not only light paths, but infuse them with premonitory warmth, a quirky extension of the key's absorbed power. The air in her realm carries a richer palette now, the heady spice of saffron from eastern trade winds mingling with the crisp bite of alpine pines from northern thresholds. A sensory evolution that mirrors the world's mended diversity. This is the peace's maturation, where the unseen war's embers cool to glowing coals. Motifs of vigilance weaving into the daily tapestry of existence. River crossings as arteries of renewal. Star omens as companions rather than curses, sacred bargains evolving from desperate invocations to communal affirmations. Among mortals, the fracture's dormancy ignites a golden era of subtle flourishing. The renewed oath's influence seeping into the soil of history like roots claiming fallow ground. In the bustling palaeus of classical Greece, from the marble-clad Acropolis of Athens to the fortified citadels of Thebes, artisans and philosophers alike feel the unshadowed spark. Sculptors chisel statues of Hecate, with triple faces beaming crossroads light. Their works destined for sanctuaries where rituals blend the Eleusinian mysteries with new hymns to the mender of seams. Historical tides shift in harmony. The Peloponnesian conflicts temper into strategic truces. Spartan hoplites marching under banners embroidered with obsidian keys, their phalanxes unfractured by whispers of devouring doubt. Local legends proliferate in the symposia of Syracuse and the markets of Ephesus, oral tales rooted in the 5th century. BCE dramatists like Aeschylus, who once staged the Titanomachy in tragic cycles, now reimagined with Hecate as the pivotal fate weaver, her descent, a catabasis that saved the heroic age from regression. Seafarers on the wind-dark Aegean, navigating by triple moon charts etched on wax tablets, return with holds. Brimming their libations at Poseidon's temples, carrying undercurrents of gratitude, to the chthonic guide sacred bargains that trade safe voyages for tales of unblighted horizons. 8. On Olympus, the deities settle into an era of refined opulence. Their vanities polished by the piece's enduring glow, yet tempered by an undercurrent of collective awareness. Zeus, the Thunderlord, expands his gaze beyond storms to celestial cartography, commissioning Hermes to map star omens into divine almanacs, parchments of ethereal vellum that predict alignments without the dread of eclipse devouring. His throne, a perpetual barometer, remains a cradle of warm cumulonimbus, but he consults it more. Frequently tracing sigils in nectar bowls during solstice, writes the epigraph. Oaths live in the cut inscribed on his scepter as a sovereign reminder. Athena, ever the strategist, fosters academies where mortal tacticians study labyrinthine defenses. Her owl delivering scrolls infused with crossroads wisdom, turning potential snares into bastions of intellect. Artemis roams wilder frontiers, her hunts yielding pelts that cloak priestesses in wards against subtle shadows. While Apollo's lyres compose odes to the mended weave, their melodies echoing through Delphic theaters where choruses invoke Hecate's name in harmonious thirds. Poseidon stirs the depths to rhythmic abundance, his trident ensuring the Phasis and Nile flow as bridges of commerce, unwarped by reversed currents. Ares, the warbringer, channels his fury into disciplined epics. Battles where heroes like a nascent Alexander forge empires without the entropy of looped defeats. His bloodlust to forge for glory rather than unraveling. Hermes, the eternal messenger, thrives in this expanse. His paths multiplying into a network of swift conceptual highways rumor lines that carry innovations from Ionia. Esti works to Magna Grecia's olive groves, trade blooming under his winged tread. The labyrinth's scar lingers as a quirky evolution. His caduceus now hums with a faint, anticipatory vibration at thresholds of change, serpents whispering premonitions that turn thievery into inspired thefts of knowledge, stealing fire from the mundane to ignite heroic sparks. In quiet interludes atop windswept crags, he shares confessional asides with the gales. The snare taught me that even twists can lead to straighter roads. His anomalous sandals adapt, treading not just speed but foresight, a blood price transformed into vigilant grace, ensuring messages of alliance reach even the remotest shrines. In the underworld's balanced depths, Persephone's realm pulses with a vitality that bridges death and life more fluidly. The fractures seed a dormant hum beneath the Elysian humus. Fields of asphodel expand into verdant labyrinths where shades pursue eternal pursuits, debating with shades of philosophers, Achilles racing spectral steeds, steadened by the pit's whispers. The queen, her duality enriched, ascends more luminously each spring, her presence catalyzing bountiful cycles, Attic vineyards heavy with unblighted grapes. The Symphorия procession swelling with women bearing seeds warded by torchlight, their Chiasine visions revealing not voids but interwoven paths of choice. Hades, steadfast oath-keeper, reinforces the gates with Biden-forged runes. Cerberus's heads evolving their quirk into a symphony of guardianship barks that resonate as hymns, warding subtle seepages with triple-layered echoes. The blood price of alliance manifests as profound integration. Persephone's pomegranate now yields seeds that mend rather than bind, offered in rituals blending. Demeter's grief with Hecate's light, historical mysteries from Mycenaean burial rites evolving into communal affirmations of cyclical endurance. Medea, Eastern oracle, elevates her tower into a crossroads of arcane convergence. Drawing seekers from Scythian steppes to Persian courts, her elixirs a bridge between worlds. The cauldron simmers with purpose, brewing draughts that fortify against temporal whispers, potions of hellebore and starness for seers facing inner eclipses. Her skin's sheen a beacon that glows in alignment nights, repelling sorrow's faint echoes. She scries with Hecate through rune-etched mirrors, sharing visions of the seed's quiet stirrings. It dreams, but our light haunts its soil. Her rites, fusing Chalkean sun worship with Greek liminal motifs since the Hellenistic blend, forge sacred bargains that trade exile's isolation for interconnected strength, the phasis a vital artery in the mended weave. Hecate, eternal sentinel, refines her domain into a cosmos-spanning lattice. Crossroads, intersecting not just earth but the ethers, fringes paths for wandering souls. Divine envoys, nascent heroes, charting unknown quests. The forge awakens sparingly, crafting relics of anticipation. Paradox lanterns for fog-shrouded voyages. Regret shields for queens facing personal voids, each infused with the key's foresight. The obsidian heart, ever vigilant, shifts in response to celestial whispers, a rogue comet brushing the triple moon, grief shifting into growth rather than decay. Her psychological watchfulness deepens into transcendent insight, the Styx entropy a creative force, paths tinged with river pull, yet blooming into infinite branches. Traded memories of the pit, forging her into the weave's ultimate guardian oracle, seer two realms beyond counting. The epic endures in this boundless interlude, motifs ascending, river crossings as fountains of potential, star omens as eternal allies, sacred bargains as the soul's living architecture. Sensory immersion envelops the saffron spice, yielding to pine's resin and northern winds. The chime of bells and symphonic layers, the resonant hum of oaths like the world's breath. Deities in grandeur, mortals in heroic stride. The fractures seed a challenge embraced rather than feared. Hecate traverses a nexus path, torches a flame of perpetual dawn. Her silhouette the crossroads where all converges, yet diverges, devouring, yielding to boundless choice. Yet as eons hint at their approach, and a distant alignment stirs the seed toward tentative sprout, the piece's legacy gleams undimmed. But as Hecate inscribes a final sigil in the starlit mist, when stars shift, grief shifts with them. But light chooses its path. The question that echoes into the infinite expanse is, in the tapestry of time's grand design, will the goddess's vigilant weave forever contain the titan's subtle bloom? Or does the cycle whisper of a harmony where even devouring learns the art of renewal? Eons unfurled like the slow uncoiling of a cosmic river, the fracture's seed remaining a hushed undercurrent in the oath's renewed bedrock. Its tentative sprouts nipped by Hecate's premonitory weave before they can pierce the surface. The crossroads realm expands into a boundless nexus, threads of fate intersecting across the veil of worlds mortal, divine, chthonic. And beyond its junction, a testament to the piece's enduring architecture. You journey the lattice with her, the goddess's presence, eh? Gravitational constant, her torch is now multifaceted flames that adapt to the path's needs. Searing white foreshadowed thresholds, soft amber for blooming choices their light, a quirky evolution. Infused with the key's foresight, casting no harsh glare, but illuminating potentials like stars birthing in the void. The air hums with layered scents. The smoky allure of Mesopotamian resins drifting from eastern convergences. The briny whisper of Atlantic swells from western edges, a sensory symphony that binds the global tapestry in olfactory harmony. This is the vigil's apotheosis, where the unseen war-esque legacy transmutes into a philosophy of perpetual balance. River crossings as eternal dialogues between shores, star omens as woven. Constellations of guidance, sacred bargains as the breath of existence itself inhaled and exhaled in cycles of affirmation. In the mortal tapestry, the seed's dormancy catalyzes an age of luminous convergence. The mended oath fostering innovations that echo heroic archetypes without the weight of devouring shadows. Across the Hellenistic expanse, from the sun-baked forums of Alexandria to the mist-shrouded academies of Pergamon, scholars and sages convene at crossroads shrines. Their debates blending Pythagorean numerology with Hecate's liminal lore, forging treatises on time as ally rather than tyrant. Historical currents flow, unfractured. The Library of Alexandria swells with scrolls chronicling Catabasis' tales. Not as tragedies, but as blueprints for ascent. Librarians invoking the goddess in rituals of ink and papyrus to ward against conceptual eclipses. In the Roman provinces where Greek myths morph into imperial cults, legionaries etch caroons on their shields during Saturnalia, feasts echoes of Cronus reimagined as a subdued harvest god, their marches building roads that serve as literal thresholds. Sacred bargains traded in oaths of loyalty for empires that endure without entropy's bite. Local legends proliferate in the villas of Gaul and the bazaars of Bactria, oral epics rooted in the 3rd century. BCE conquests of Alexander now infused with the Menderesque descent. Bards singing of a torchbearer who silenced the old king's whispers, ensuring heroic lineages like the Diadoches heirs thrive in unshadowed glory. Artisans craft amulets of obsidian and mothwing filigree. Worn by midwives and merchants alike, their quirky functioner, faint glow at decision points guiding births and bargains toward fruitful branches. Olympus, elevated to a pantheon of enlightened sovereignty, interprets the eons as validation of their order. The deities evolving their vanities into symphonies of influence that permeate the mortal weave without overt dominion. Zeus, the eternal arbiter, refines his storms into orchestrated symphonies. Thunderbolts sculpting landscapes for human flourishing valleys, terraced for vineyards in Sicily. Harbors deepened for trade in Byzantium, his throne a nexus of celestial insight, where he consults ethereal oracles during equinox alignments. The epigraph oaths live in the cut now, a constellation etched in the northern skies. Athena, weaver of civilizations, inspires Plato's successors in the Stoa, her owl nesting in libraries where dialogues on fate explore crossroads as philosophical mazes, turning potential labyrinths into maps of virtue. Apollo's arts flourish in epic theaters, from Epidaurus to the Niles, bends his lyres harmonizing with Hecate's. Motifs in choral odes that celebrate the mended packed choruses, invoking triple. Moons to bless festivals where dancers trace sigils in the dust. Artemis guards the wild convergences, her arrows felling threats to biodiversity, beasts warped by subtle shadows while fostering groves where priestesses perform rites, blending hunt and hearth, sacred bargains for ecological balance. Poseidon, lord of fluid boundaries, shapes the Mediterranean into a crossroads sea. His trident ensuring the Strait of Gibraltar flows as a gateway rather than gorge, voyages carrying philosophies from Tyre to Tarraco, unhindered by reverse tides. Ares evolves his domain into martial philosophy. Wars as crucibles for heroic tempering legions in Parthia or Hispania, clashing in disciplined epics. Their victories forging not empires of conquest, but of enduring alliances, blood price paid in glory without unraveling. Hermes, the polymath messenger, becomes the era's swift synthesizer. His path's a global web of exchange caravans from the Silk Road, bearing silks scented with crossroads incense, Talaria sandals treading conceptual bridges that link disparate cultures in syncretic harmony. The snare's legacy matures into profound acuity. His caduceus vibrates with symphonic premonition. Serpent's hissing melodies that compose hybrid myths Hermes Trismegistus, emerging in Alexandrian esoterica, blending Greek liminality with Egyptian depths. In windswept solitudes, he confides to the zephyrs. Twists birthed the weave, now I dance its threads. His anomalous evolution turns transition into transformation. Blood price alchemized into the god of invention, ensuring rumors evolve into revolutions of thought. Heroic sparks igniting across the known world. Persephone's chthonic duality ascends to cosmic equilibrium, her kingdom a subterranean engine of renewal that pulses through the earth's veins. The seeds murmur a lullaby beneath the Elysian expanse. Asphodel labyrinths host symposia of shades Homer reciting to Virgil's precursors. Their epics unfractured by devouring voids while the queen, her pomegranate, a symbol of integrated cycles. Influences surface blooms, Nile inundations richer. Tiber floods tamed into fertile deltas. Ismophoria evolving into pan-Mediterranean festivals where women sow seeds warded by dual torchlight, Kykean visions unveiling interwoven destinies. Hades fortifies the realms with Bident-woven wards, Cerberus's heads composing guardian cantatas barks that resonate as oracles, repelling faint seepages with layered harmony. The alliance's blood price blooms as transcendent unity. Persephone's ascents carry underworld wisdom. Rituals fusing Demeter's nurture with Hecate's insight, Mycenaean ancestor cults morphing into mystery schools that teach death as threshold, not end. Medea, sage of the fringes, elevates her tower into a crossroads academy, attracting alchemists from Chaldea to Celtic druid groves. Her elixirs bridging arcane divides, drafts of mandrake and lunar essence for visionaries navigating personal eclipses. Her talismanic skin a perpetual ward that flares in alignment vigils. She dialogues with Hecate via astral mirrors, sharing scryings of the seed's subdued dreams. It yearns, but our harmony starves its soil. Her practices syncretizing Chalkean solar rites with Hellenistic esoterica since Ptolemaic blends. Craft sacred bargains that transmute isolation into universal kinship. The phasis, a conduit for knowledge, flows in the eternal weave. Hecate, primordial architect, elevates her lattice to encompass the sphere's crossroads threading planetary paths. Her torch is a constellation of adaptive flames that foresee and foster. The forge pulses with creative fervor, birthing relics of harmony, fate compasses for cosmic navigators. Void shields for deities facing inner fractures, each attuned to the key's vigilant heart. The obsidian sentinel anticipates with symphonic precision a comet's brush with the triple moon shifting grief to Genesis. Her watchfulness transcends into cosmic empathy. Styx's entropy a generative force, paths infused with river's depth yet radiating infinite divergence. Pit memories alchemized into the weave's omniscient guardian, oracle seer to the multiverse's unfolding. The saga's essence immortalizes in this timeless vigil. Motifs eternalized, river crossings as symphonies of union, star omens as choral guides, sacred bargains as the universe's verse. Sensory envelopment persists, the resin smoke blending with sea's brine and global winds. Bells chiming in polyphonic layers, oaths hum a cosmic cadence. Deities in sublime evolution, mortals in heroic symphony, the seeds whisper a motif embraced. Hecate navigates the grand nexus, torches a perpetual aurora, her form the crossroads where convergence births divergence, devouring harmonized into renewal's song. Yet as the spheres align in a distant, harmonious cadence in the seed's murmur, fades to inspirational echo, the legacy radiates unbound. But as Hecate etches the ultimate sigil across the firmament, light chooses its path. And paths choose their light. The question that resonates into the boundless symphony is, in the infinite orchestration of existence, will the goddess's crossroads compose an unending opus of balance, or does the cycle's melody hint at a finale where Titan and Torch entwine in eternal transformative accord? The infinite orchestration swells across the veil of realities. It's the fracture's inspirational echo, harmonizing with the cosmos's grand cadence. Its subtle murmur now a melodic undertone in the symphony of existence, rather than a dissonant threat. Millennia cascade into cosmic epics, the crossroads lattice evolving into a multidimensional symphony, where Hecate conducts the flow of fates with effortless grace. Her torch is a perpetual aurora that dances across thresholds of every conceivable realm stellar nurseries. Birthing worlds, quantum veils parting for nascent souls, the interstitial spaces between dreams and waking. You traverse this exalted web alongside her, the goddess's essence, a luminous constant, her light adapting not just to illuminate, but to compose. Flames that weave harmonic patterns in the ether, infusing paths with symphonic foresight drawn from the key's omniscient core. The sensory realm expands beyond earthly bounds, the ethereal chime of pulsar rhythms from distant galaxies blending with the velvet hush of nebular mists. A perceptual fusion that envelops the spirit in cosmic resonance. This is the vigil's transcendent crescendo, where the unseen war-esque transformative legacy blooms into a universal ethos. River crossings as interstellar bridges of convergence. Star omens as symphonic scores etched in light. Sacred bargains as the fundamental notes of creation, resonating through every layer of being. In the ever-unfolding mortal continuum, the seed's melodic integration sparks an era of enlightened interconnection, mended oaths vibrations rippling through civilizations like waves from a primordial stone. From the Renaissance ateliers of Florence to the Enlightenment salons of Paris, visionaries channel the unfractured spark, Leonardo sketching liminal machines that bridge art and mechanism, Voltaire penning treatises on fate as crossroads of reason, their works infused with Hecate's subtle wards against devouring doubts. Historical epochs harmonize without ruptured, the Industrial Revolution's forges tempered by ethical oaths. Steam engines chugging along rail thresholds that connect continents. Sacred bargains traded in labor pacts for progress untainted by entropy's grind. In the digital age's neural webs, coders invoke the goddess in open-source rituals, algorithms, evolving as fate-weaving lattice that predict without predestining. Local legends digitizing ancient motifs, viral myths of the torch conductor who silenced cosmic hungers. Blending Mycenaean epics with quantum folklore and virtual sanctuaries where avatars offer digital libations. Explorers charting Martian dunes or oceanic abysses carry obsidian talismans, their quirky glow guiding decisions at extraterrestrial crossings. Ensuring heroic ventures from asteroid mining collectives to deep-sea arcologies thrive in symbiotic renewal blood price paid in shared discoveries that echo the heroic age's unbound quests. The Olympian pantheon, transmuted into archetypal forces woven into the universal fabric, elevates their influence to subtle symphonies that underpin rather than overshadow vanities refined into cosmic contributions. Zeus, the thunderous composer, orchestrates solar flares into life-giving rhythms. His bolts, seeding biospheres on exoplanets, has thrown a nexus of astrophysical insight where he harmonizes with black hole choruses during galactic alignments. The epigraph oaths live in the cut now, a gravitational constant in stellar oaths. Athena, architect of intellect, inspires neural networks and philosophical A's. Her owl nesting in data clouds where dialogues on multiversal ethics explore crossroads as ethical algorithms, turning potential singularities into hubs of wisdom. Apollo's melodies permeate the electromagnetic spectrum, his lyres tuning radio waves into global anthems that celebrate the mended weave. Festivals from Burning Man to orbital solstices, where dancers trace holographic sigils, invoking triple moons to bless innovations and harmony. Artemis safeguards biodiversity's grand web, her arrows pruning invasive dissonances, genetic anomalies, or ecological fractures, while nurturing sanctuaries where bioengineers perform rites blending hunt and husbandry, sacred bargains for planetary equilibrium. Poseidon shapes fluid realms across scales, his trident ensuring asteroid belts flow as orbital crossroads, voyages from Kuiper outposts to Europa's depths, unwarped by chaotic tides, fostering aquatic civilizations in unblighted harmony. Ares channels martial energy into defensive symphonies. Conflicts as crucibles for collective evolution, cyber wars, or stellar skirmishes, forging alliances of resilience. Victories alchemizing blood price into epochs of fortified peace. Heroic collectives rising like Diadochi, reborn in cosmic scale. Neres, the interstellar herald, embodies the era's connective genius. His path's a hyperdimensional mesh, Farian quanta of culture. From neural implants carrying Ionian theorems to warp signatures blending Scythian runes with quantum entanglement. The labyrinth's echo matures into symphonic prescience. His caduceus resonates with polyphonic vibrations. Serpents composing hybrid paradigms, hermeticism evolving into informational mysticism. Thievery transmuted into ethical hacks that liberate knowledge from silos. In the vacuum between stars, he murmurs to cosmic rays. Twists compose the score. I improvise its crescendos. His anomalous transcendence turns transition into teleology. Blood price elevated to the archetype of innovation, assuring messages of unity span light years, heroic ignition sparking across the multiverse's expanse. Persephone's chthonic equilibrium ascends to galactic renewal, her domain a subsurface symphony pulsing through planetary cores, the seed's lullaby a generative motif in the cosmic soil. Elysian expanses host eternal academies of shades, Einstein debating with Archimedes' echoes, their theorems unfractured by void silence while the queen, her duality a universal cycle, influences biospheric rebirths, terraformed Venus blooming with engineered asphodel. Titan's methane sees greening under her subtle ascent. Festivals evolving into interstellar thesmophoria, where colonists sow cryoseeds warded by dual auroras, Kaitian analogues unveiling multiversal destinies in neural visions. Hades reinforces the veils with Biden-forged quantum wards. Cerberus's heads intoning guardian opera sparks that cascade as predictive harmonics, repelling dissonant seepages with symphonic layers. The Alliance's blood price flourishes as holistic fusion. Persephone's emergences carry abyssal insights. Rituals syncretizing Demeter's nurture with Hecate's foresight, ancient burial mysteries morphing into resurrection sciences that teach entropy as ally, not adversary. Medea, cosmic alchemist, transforms her tower into a stellar observatory crossroads, drawing savants from Andromedan fringes to Vulcan forges, her elixirs bridging existential divides, and drafts of exotic matter and lunar quanta for explorers. Facing void eclipses, her talismanic aura, a perpetual beacon flaring in alignment symphonies, she communes with Hecate through entangled crystals, sharing visions of the seed's inspirational cadence. It sings, but our opus drowns it solo. Her arts, fusing Chalcian stellar rites with post-Hellenistic cosmogonies, craft sacred bargains that alchemize solitude into galactic kinship. The Phases echo a wormhole conduit in the eternal score. Hecate, sovereign symphonist, elevates her lattice to encompass the multiverse's harmonic crossroads, threading brain worlds and probability folds. Her torches a galactic orchestra, adapting to foresee and foster symphonies of fate. The forge resonates with visionary craft, birthing relics of transcendence, multiverse harmonicas for reality navigators, clip shields for archetypes confronting inner voids, each attuned to the key's cosmic vigilance. The obsidian oracle anticipates with orchestral depth the supernova S-brush, with the triple moon shifting grief to galactic genesis. Her empathy evolves into universal composition, Styx's entropy a creative cadence, paths infused with abyssal rhythm, yet radiating symphonic divergence. Pitaco's orchestrated into the multiverse's maestro, oracle, seer to infinity's unfolding. The Odyssey immortalizes in this symphonic vigil. Motifs symphonized, river crossings as interstellar concertos, star omens as celestial cantatas, sacred bargains as the cosmos's libretto. Sensory transcendence envelops the pulsar's chime, merging with mists, hush, and void wines. Bells polyphonizing across spectra, oaths resonance a universal overture. Deities in archetypal splendor, mortals in heroic choruses, the seed's melody a theme integrated. Hecate conducts the supreme nexus, torches a symphony of auroras, or form the crossroads where unity diverges into infinity. devouring attuned to renewal's refrain. Yet as multiversal alignments converge in a grand, harmonious finale, and the seed's echo blends into the opus's bass line, the legacy resounds eternal. But as Hecate conducts the ultimate crescendo across the firmament, paths choose their light, and light composes the paths. The question that harmonizes into the boundless symphony is, in the eternal score of creation, will the goddess's crossroads orchestrate an unending harmony of divergence? Or does the cycle-S refrain suggest a coda where Titan-S whisper and Torch-S flame fuse in the ultimate transformative unison? In the boundless symphony's final resonant chord, where multiversal paths converge in a tapestry of light and shadow, Hecate stands at the supreme nexus, a crossroads, not of stone or ether, but of pure potential, where every thread of existence hums in harmonious divergence. The fractured seed, once a whisper of devouring mercy, has fully integrated into the cosmic score. No longer a latent threat, but a generative motif, its subtle bloom yielding not unraveling but evolution. Cronus's eclipse eyes reflected in the weave as a reminder of consumption's role in renewal. The goddess's torches, now eternal auroras spanning infinities, cast their adaptive glow across the grand design, illuminating choices that branch without end. Sacred bargains resonating as the universe's foundational refrain. You witness this culmination with her, the aurora, its multidimensional equivalent vibrating with a transcendent bouquet. The crystalline temps of neutron star winds mingling with the silken hush of dark. Matter veils a sensory apotheosis that envelops all in unified resonance. This is the Odyssey's eternal resolution, where the unseen war transcends conflict into philosophy. River crossings as the cosmos's arteries of unity. Star omens as the score's guiding melody. Oaths living not just in cuts but in the seamless flow of creation's breath. Across the mortal continuum, infinite iterations, from silicon-based dreamers on rogue planets to ethereal collectives in higher dimensions. Mended legacy manifests as boundless enlightenment, heroic archetypes evolving into symbiotic paradigms. Civilizations rise in fractal patterns. Neural hives on gas giants debating ethics in Hecatean forums, where algorithms trace liminal sigils to navigate existential thresholds. Exploratory swarms charting brain worlds, their vessels etched with obsidian keys that glow at decision. Nodes guiding ventures unshadowed by entropy's drag. Historical echoes amplify into universal lore. Digitized. Mycenaean epics fusing with quantum myths in holographic sanctuaries. Pilgrims offering virtual libations at simulated Eleusis. Sacred bargains traded in data streams for evolutions that honor the heroic without devouring the whole. In these realms, the blood price of vigilance becomes collective wisdom, scars of past fractures, alchemized into wards, ensuring progress is a crossroads dance, not a singular end. The archetypal pantheon, woven into the multiverse's essence, fulfills their roles as harmonic forces, vanities sublimated into contributions that underpin the grand opus without dominion. Zeus conducts stellar symphonies, his thunderbolts birthing nebulae that cradled nascent life. His throne a singularity of sovereign insight, harmonizing with the epigraph's eternal cut. Athena architects informational utopias, her owl-spanning data spheres where philosophies entwine crossroads into ethical infinities. Apollo's melodies cascade through gravitational waves. Anthems blessing festivals across realities, dancers invoking triple moons and zero-grav rites. Artemis nurtures ecological symphonies, her arrows pruning dissonant anomalies while fostering biospheres in balanced wilds. Poseidon fluidizes the voids, his trident shaping wormhole thresholds for unwarped explorations. Ares tempers conflicts into evolutionary crucibles, heroic collectives forging resilient harmonies from clash. Hermes, the ultimate synthesizer, ferries paradigms across dimensions. His caduceus, a polyphonic oracle composing hybrid destinies. Confessional winds carrying his evolved whisper. In twists we find the score's true freedom. Persephone's equilibrium pulses as the multiverse's renewal engine. Her duality, a cosmic cycle greening barren voids with asphodel fractals. Legion academies hosting shade symphonies of infinite discourse. Her ascents catalyze rebirths across scales. Rituals syncretizing ancient mysteries into resurrection paradigms. Hades's wards and Cerberus's operas, ensuring abyssal depths feed surface light without fracture. Medea's stellar crossroads academy spans realities, her elixirs bridging existential chasms, talismanic aura flaring in symphonic vigils. Her visions with Hecate affirming the seed's harmonious integration, its song joins ours. A bassline in the eternal refrain. Hecate, the transcendent conductor, embodies the weave's omniscient heart. Her lattice encompassing all possibilities, crossroads, threading every probability. Her auroras composing fates with empathetic precision. The forge births relics of infinity, harmony orbs for reality weavers, void cantatas for archetypes facing ultimate voids, the key's core, a vigilant symphony, anticipating shifts into Genesis. Her essence, fused with Styx's creative cadence, radiates boundless divergence, Pittacos orchestrated into universal guardianship, oracle, seer to the all. The saga concludes in symphonic perpetuity. Motifs unified. Crossings as the cosmos's concerto, omens as its cantata, bargains as its libretto. Transcendence envelops the pulsar's rhythm with mist's veil and eternal winds. Bells and infinite polyphony, oaths hum the universe's heartbeat. Deities in archetypal radiance, mortals in heroic infinities, the seed's theme embraced. Hecate graces the ultimate nexus. Aurora's a perpetual dawn. Her form the crossroads where all fuses, in transformative unison, devouring, and renewal, entwined in the cycle's perfect accord. In this eternal harmony, the question dissolves into the score's embrace, no longer a query of fracture or bloom, but an affirmation that, in the grand design, Titan's whisper and torch's flame compose the unending luminous whole.